Chapter 198. The cultivators surrounding the Tai immoral sect's encampment were all shocked, because everyone could see that the immoral formation did not automatically retract its power, but had been broken through. How could this be? Isn't the Grand Elder of the Tai immoral sect back? And the Grand Elder brought many strong cultivators with him. How could they be defeated? Can a high-grade immoral array be broken in the cultivation world? The hearts of the surrounding cultivators were filled with all kinds of questions and guesses. Of course, in the hearts of these cultivators, they also wanted to see this result because everyone preferred to be surprised and wanted to see the weaker side win. After the power of the 9 Palace Glaze immoral array dissipated, Shaolin Yu did not give the experts of various races a chance to besiege him. He immediately put away the puppet and rushed out of the encirclement with the wings of extreme speed. The experts of various races were all absent-minded because of the sudden collapse of the immortal array. When they came back to their senses, Shaolin Yu was already gone. Even Ling Er, who had contributed to breaking the array, was taken away. Shaolin Yu was very afraid of the Dragon King's innate divine ability, so he did not dare to stay any longer. He directly flew into the starry sky because he knew that the teleportation array would not be open for him at this time. The experts of various races could only rely on Liu to track Shaolin Yu. However, Liu also needed to sense for a period of time to determine Shaolin Yu's location. During this time, Shaolin Yu would be long gone. However, even if it was difficult to catch up, the experts of various races did not give up the opportunity and chased Shaolin Yu into the starry sky. Shaolin Yu flew in the starry sky for half a month. After recovering his state, he suddenly turned around and landed in front of the Tai immoral sect's encirclement again. Although the Tai immoral sect was still on high alert, their 9 Palace Glaze immoral array had been broken and could not be activated again. They could not stop Shaolin Yu at all. "Thief, how dare you come to our Tai immoral sect? Do you want to die?" The second elder of the Tai immoral sect shouted loudly as he blocked the entrance of the encirclement with a group of elders. "Why don't you dare to come again? What's so scary about your Tai immoral sect?" Shaolin Yu replied disdainfully. Then, as if he had thought of something, his body flashed and he directly appeared in front of the other party. His hand also pressed on the second elder's shoulder. A speed that even a 9 Tribulations expert would find difficult to reach made it so that the elders of the Tai immoral sect had no time to react. By the time they cried out in alarm, Shaolin Yu had already sealed the cultivation of the second elder. "The reason why Gingjia is chasing after me is probably your idea, isn't it?" Shaolin Yu narrowed her eyes and asked the second elder. Then, without waiting for his reply, she directly used her high-grade chaotic force to disperse the second elder's body. "Stop, thief!" A delicate shout rang out, and a few strands of colorful silk flew over from not far away. Like a few sharp arrows, they seemed to be attacking Shaolin Yu, but in reality, they were sweeping towards second elder's immortal nascent soul. "You dare to show off a broken immortal artifact?" Shaolin Yu sneered and quickly stretched out her 2 hands. One hand grabbed second elder's immortal nascent soul, and the other hand grabbed all the strands of colorful silk. "Come here!" After grabbing a few strands of colorful silk, Shaolin Yu shouted loudly. She suddenly exerted force with one hand and pulled the colorful silk over along with its owner. Shaolin Yu recognized the owner of the colorful silk. It was Dyer, who had followed second elder to chase after Shaolin Yu for a long time. At this moment, Dyer's pretty face was filled with surprise and fear, but her cheeks were puffed up. "Little girl, with your little ability, it's better if you don't come out." Shaolin Yu quickly retreated with Dyer. She used her finger to lift Dyer's chin and said with a faint smile, "Humph." Dyer stubbornly turned her head away and coldly snorted. "You're pretty hot, but if you're not strong enough, don't come out and show off. Otherwise, you'll lose your life." At this point, Shaolin Yu's face darkened. He would not show mercy to this girl just because she was pretty. Just as Shaolin Yu was about to ruthlessly destroy the flower, second elder's immortal nascent soul, which had been imprisoned by him, used some unknown secret technique to break free from its imprisonment. Then, it suddenly swelled up. Xiaolingyu knew that the immortal nascent soul was about to self-destruct, so he immediately released it and flew away without a second thought. As for Dyer, Xiaolingyu naturally would not be kind enough to take her away. A loud explosion reverberated in the Tai immortal sect's encampment. Almost all the cultivators on the Tai continent could hear it, and the ground of the Tai continent shook violently. With the Tai immortal sect's encampment as the center, a ring-shaped shock wave quickly swept out in all directions. Everywhere it passed, almost everything was turned into nothingness. There was even a black hole that was hundreds of miles in diameter. The power of an eighth tribulation immortal nascent soul's self-destruction was really extraordinary. Even though Xiaolingyu ran fast, he was still covered in dust from the explosion. However, he relied on his extremely high-quality body and did not suffer any damage. Not every cultivator had such a defensive ability. Almost none of the cultivators near the Tai immortal sect could survive. Even if their cultivation had reached the seventh tribulation, if they did not have a high-grade immortal treasure to defend themselves, they would only die. The second elder was also furious. Moreover, when his immortal nascent soul saw that Xiaolingyu was going to kill Dyer, he was anxious and launched a self-destruction without caring about anything else. He completely forgot that his immortal nascent soul was at the entrance of the Tai immortal sect. The self-destruction of the immortal nascent soul might not be able to hurt the other party, but it would definitely bring disaster to the Tai immortal sect. Perhaps because the power of the self-destruction was too strong, the Tai immortal sect's great protective nine-palace glaze immortal formation automatically opened at this critical moment. However, because there was no one controlling it, it could only release its power automatically. This immortal formation could not play a strong defensive role and could not completely withstand such a strong self-destruction. Almost instantly, all the buildings in the Tai immortal sect's encampment were razed to the ground. Countless experts of the Tai immortal sect who did not have time to react died on the spot. At the moment when the immortal nascent soul self-destructed, a ring of light suddenly bloomed from Dyer's body and enveloped her whole body. The power of the self-destruction of the eighth tribulation immortal nascent soul could not break through. Although she was still alive, Dyer's face was filled with shock and confusion, followed by deep sadness and resentment. The number of people who were still alive in the vicinity of the Tai immortal sect could be counted with 2 hands. Moreover, they were all heavily injured. Those who were still alive either had relatively high-grade defensive immortal treasures or were loose immortals of the sixth tribulation and above. However, even if these loose immortals survived, they would not be able to survive the next heavenly tribulation after suffering such a blow. The self-destruction of the immortal nascent soul was equivalent to directly reducing the overall strength of the Tai immortal sect by a large margin. Countless Mahayana stage and loose immortals with a cultivation base lower than the seventh tribulation had died tragically in this self-destruction. No aristocratic family could bear such a loss. Xiaolingyu returned to the Tai immortal sect not to destroy the Tai immortal sect, but to teach Gingjiao a lesson. He never thought that the second elder of the Tai immortal sect would self-destruct his immortal nascent soul at his own immortal gate. However, in this way, Xiaolingyu did not have to take action and waste his energy. Although many cultivators had died this time, he did not feel too guilty. In the end, Boren died because of him, but he was not the one who killed him. The surviving loose immortals would face the heavenly tribulation within 1,000 years, and Gingjiao would soon ascend to the immortal world. In another 1,000 years, the Tai immortal sect would definitely fall to second-rate status. The sect-protecting formation of the Tai immortal sect had also been destroyed by the explosion. When these injured loose immortals were annihilated by the heavenly tribulation, and when Gingjiao ascended to the immortal world, the Tai immortal sect would lose everything they could rely on to protect themselves. The other forces in the cultivation world would not watch them continue to occupy the immortal stone vein without doing anything. Evil thief, you and I can't live under the same sky. Dyer looked at Xiaolingyu who was floating in the air not far away and shouted with incomparable hatred. I didn't kill them. Besides, what right do you have to be irreconcilable with me? Xiaolingyu replied indifferently and turned to fly towards the teleportation array. Too many people from the Tai immortal sect had died, and Xiaolingyu was not a cold-blooded person. At this time, he could not help but feel some compassion, so he did not attack Dyer again. After all, he came from Earth, and the men on Earth generally would not bicker with women. An hour after Xiaolingyu left, a few bold cultivators came to check. When they saw the Tai immoral sect in such a mess and dilapidated, and the entire encampment had been turned into a huge pit, they were all dumbfounded. The news quickly spread throughout the cultivation world. Many cultivators sighed that a powerful force had fallen to such a state. However, the cultivation world was like this. There was no such thing as a strong sect forever. Even if some sects could flourish for thousands of years, after a long time, they would fall from the altar for one reason or another. The Tai immoral sect's ending made it easy for people to associate it with the young expert who had barged into the 9-palace glaze immortal array. In addition, someone had seen him at the teleportation array, so this matter was clear as day. The Tai immoral sect provoked an enemy that they should not have provoked, and their orthodoxy was directly destroyed. The affairs of the world are really unpredictable. The cultivators in the cultivation world were sighing, but Gengjia's heart was bleeding. After receiving the news, he directly spat out a mouthful of blood, and his head became dizzy at that moment. Until now, Gengjia was extremely regretful that he had been bewitched by the second elder and provoked an enemy that he should not have provoked. Xiaolingyu did not think that the collapse of the Tai immoral sect was anything to be proud of. After leaving the Tai continent and thinking about it for a while, he decided to pay a visit to the Black Blood Demon. Since the Tai immoral sect was already here, if he did not pay a visit to the Black Blood Demon, he would be letting down Liu, who had been tracking him for so many years. Xiaolingyu did not have much hatred for Gengjia, but it was different for Liu. The earth had come to an end because of Liu. His parents, whom he had not found until now, had most likely died because of him. In addition, the experts of the Black Blood Demon had been hunting him for many years, and now Liu was the main force tracking him. How could Xiaolingyu let the Black Blood Demon go so easily? However, Xiaolingyu reckoned that the Black Blood Demon must also have a strong array defense, so he did not dare to be too careless. When he was about to reach the Black Blood continent, he did not directly go to the Black Blood Demon. Instead, he first inquired about the situation. Chapter 199. After asking around in some cities on the Black Blood continent, Xiaolingyu flew towards the Black Blood Demon's headquarters. The Black Blood Forest was one of the most famous places on the Black Blood continent. It wasn't just because there would often be black blood rain falling from the sky in the Black Blood Forest, nor was it because the soil of the Black Blood Forest would often gush out with black blood. There was an even more important reason, and that was because the headquarters of the Black Blood Demon, the leader of the demonic Tao in the cultivation world, was located there. The headquarters of many major powers and sects in the cultivation world were built on top of high-grade ore veins, and the Black Blood Demon was no exception. In the Black Blood Forest, there was a high-grade devil stone vein that would produce large amounts of devil stones for the Black Blood Demon every year. To the demonic Tao cultivators, these devil stones were like immortal stones to the immortal Tao cultivators. The difference between the immortal Tao and the immortal Tao was that the Black Blood Demon was practically the only sect in the demonic Tao. Any sect that dared to resist or disobey them, no matter how big or small, would be mercilessly wiped out by them. The demonic Tao cultivators were like this. If they didn't like someone, they wouldn't even find a reason to attack. They didn't have any psychological burden. The demonic Tao cultivators vividly demonstrated the saying, "Whoever's fist is harder is the boss." In the immortal Tao, the Tai immoral sect was the most powerful sect. However, there were countless other sects below them. They didn't necessarily obey the Tai immoral sect, and the Tai immoral sect didn't restrict them. The Tai immoral sect's territory should only be the Tai continent, but the Black Blood Demon's territory was the entire demonic Tao. However, the demonic Tao had always been despised by cultivators. More than 90% of the cultivators believed that the demonic Tao wasn't the righteous Tao. Therefore, the demonic Tao cultivators were far inferior to the immortal Tao cultivators. The demonic Tao cultivators occupied less than 1% of the immortal Tao cultivators in the cultivation world. Even though the number of demonic Tao cultivators was far less than the immoral Tao cultivators, the demonic Tao cultivators had always been controlled by a single sect. They were very united, and they were often fearless in battle. Their methods were extremely cruel and merciless, which became their advantage. It was also one of the reasons why they could survive the immortal Tao cultivators for countless years. The Black Blood continent wasn't in the demonic Tao cultivators' territory. It only took 2 or 3 teleportation portals to get to the immortal Tao cultivators' territory. The demonic Tao cultivators were intimidated by the immortal Tao cultivators. The Black Blood demon was like a towering mountain barrier. The immortal Tao cultivators intimidated the immortal Tao cultivators. Demon immoral cultivators was like a towering mountain immoral cultivators. Although the Black Blood demon ruled the entire demonic Tao cultivators, it also needed to provide protection for the demonic Tao cultivators. The Black Blood demon, who could lead the entire demonic Tao cultivators to fight against the immoral Tao cultivators and mobilize all the experts in the demonic Tao cultivators, was naturally very powerful. It should also be far more powerful than the Tai immoral sect, which was a top-notch immoral Tao cultivator sect. The defensive measures of the headquarters of such a sect would definitely not be weak. Not to mention that the Blood Nightmare demonic formation protecting the headquarters of the Black Blood demon was an extremely powerful high-grade demonic formation. Just the dangers that could be encountered everywhere in the Black Blood forest made many experts not dare to enter. Furthermore, going against the Black Blood demon was equivalent to going against the entire demonic Tao cultivators. Ordinary experts wouldn't have the guts to do so. If he wasn't forced into a corner, Shaolin Yu wouldn't have wanted to cause trouble for the Black Blood demon. But now that Liu was pestering him incessantly and even had a way to track him down, if he didn't have some tricks up his sleeve, he would have already lost his life somewhere. If he didn't take revenge, he wouldn't be able to get rid of the hatred in his heart. Even if the headquarters of the Black Blood demon was a tiger's den, Shaolin Yu was determined to barge in. The dangers in the Black Blood forest were nothing to Shaolin Yu. Whether it was those sinister and vicious fiendish life forms or the extremely corrosive fiendish aura, Shaolin Yu could ignore them all. After exiting the city, Shaolin Yu only took an hour to arrive outside the headquarters of the Black Blood demon. The headquarters of the Black Blood demon was built on top of a hill. There weren't many tall and majestic buildings. From afar, it looked like a huge tortoise lying there, motionless. There wasn't a single person in sight, and only the cries of birds and insects could be heard. The forest seemed a little deathly silent, and only the eerie moaning of the wind made one's hair stand on end. What made Shaolin Yu feel a little strange was that the Black Blood demon should have known that he would come, but their headquarters was very quiet. Moreover, the infamous Blood Nightmare demonic formation wasn't activated either. The entire Black Blood demon seemed to have completely opened its arms to Shaolin Yu. They're actually so confident? Shaolin Yu frowned slightly. After looking for a while, the corners of his mouth curled up, and he said with a smile, if they were really so confident, why wouldn't they activate the Blood Nightmare demonic formation? Why is it so quiet here? Why don't I see anyone coming and going in their headquarters? The Black Blood demon was pretending to be relaxed, and wanted to confuse him so that he wouldn't dare to act rashly. However, even though Shaolin Yu had such thoughts, he didn't dare to act rashly. Everything was a little too strange. Just as Shaolin Yu was hesitating outside the headquarters of the Black Blood demon, in a secret room deep within the headquarters, Princess Mononoke suddenly opened her eyes. Her face was full of suspicion, and she asked in confusion, "Why is that guy here?" After the battle with Shaolin Yu, Princess Mononoke had been in closed-door cultivation. Before she went into closed-door cultivation, she didn't tell anyone that she had planted a demon fetus in Shaolin Yu. In fact, only he and Princess Mononoke knew that Shaolin Yu was pregnant with a demon fetus. As she had been in closed-door cultivation, Princess Mononoke naturally didn't know what had happened in the cultivation world recently. She also didn't know that experts from various clans were hunting Shaolin Yu down. She could only roughly determine Shaolin Yu's condition through her connection with the demon fetus. He's made great progress over the years. Is he here to ask me to deal with the demon fetus? With all sorts of suspicions, Princess Mononoke finally came out of her closed-door cultivation. However, she didn't go out directly to see Xiaoling Yu. Instead, she went to see her father, the current sect leader of the Black Blood Demon. "Xianer, you're done with your closed-door cultivation?" The sect leader of the Devil Sect was in the middle of a meeting with several Black Blood Demon elders. When he saw his daughter enter, he asked, "Father, Xianer was going to stay in closed-door cultivation for a while longer, but a small problem has cropped up. I had no choice but to come out and ask for your help." Princess Mononoke Xianer bowed and said, "Oh? What's the problem? How can I help?" The sect leader of the Devil Sect asked curiously. The elders all looked at Xianer in confusion. They couldn't tell what was wrong with Xianer's cultivation. "I believe that father and the elders already know that the cultivator we've been chasing for a long time without success has already arrived at the Black Blood Demon's base," Xianer said calmly. "Of course we know. We're currently researching how to kill him here. Could your problem have something to do with him?" The sect leader of the Devil Sect nodded and asked. "It has something to do with him. I've planted a demon fetus in his body," Princess Mononoke said after taking a deep breath. "What? Ah." The sect leader of the Devil Sect and the elders all turned pale with fright. They all looked at Princess Mononoke in disbelief. "The last time I went out with the sixth elder to kill him, we didn't expect him to be so powerful. We couldn't capture him even with the two of us working together. We even killed the sixth elder. I had no choice but to plant a demon fetus in his body to protect myself," Princess Mononoke said honestly. "Ha, very good." The sect leader of the Devil Sect laughed heartily after recovering from his shock. The elders of the Devil Sect also laughed out loud after recovering from their shock. They all looked much more relaxed. "Since you've planted a demon fetus in his body, he's only here to die. We can save ourselves a lot of trouble," the sect leader of the Devil Sect said with relief. It was also at this moment that a black lotus suddenly appeared in this completely sealed hall. "With the demon fetus in his body, it'll be much easier for us to capture him here. However, that kid's body is pretty good. I want his body and the divine weapon on him." Strangely, a human voice came from the Black Lotus. "Senior, if you use the devil fetus technique to capture him, not only will his soul be destroyed, but his life essence will also disappear. At that time, the quality of his body will become much weaker. What use does Senior have for his body?" The Devil Sect master cupped his fists and bowed to the Black Lotus, asking politely. "That's very simple. We'll capture him. Don't kill him yet. I have my ways." A human voice came from the Black Lotus again. It sounded very casual. "Then we'll do as you say. However, the conditions that you promised us, what? Don't you believe me? Do I need to deceive you juniors?" The Black Lotus interrupted the sect leader of the Devil Sect before he could finish speaking. "That's not what I meant," the sect leader of the Devil Sect said with a hint of fear. "Don't worry. As long as I succeed in taking over his body, I'll teach you some powerful Devil Sect techniques after I'm resurrected. These techniques will be very useful even after you've ascended." An affirmative voice came from the Black Lotus. "However, that kid doesn't dare to come in. What if he runs away?" The sect leader of the Devil Sect asked the elders. "If I go out to meet him, he won't leave so easily." After Princess Mononoke finished speaking, she turned and left the hall. After a few moments, she arrived at the entrance of the Devil Sect's encampment. "Little girl, we meet again." Seeing Princess Mononoke come out, Xiaoling Yu wasn't surprised at all. Instead, she greeted her with a smile. "You really shouldn't have come this time," Princess Mononoke said indifferently. "I know it's very dangerous here. There are many Devil Sect experts waiting for me. However, you Black Blood Demon have been chasing me for too long. How could I not come and take a look? As the saying goes, it's impolite not to reciprocate. I'm here to return the favor," Xiaoling Yu said calmly. Chapter 200. Xiao Yu shrugged and said, I'm here to return the gift. How can I just leave without returning it? The black blood demon has been around for thousands of years. It's not as simple as you think it is. Even if you have some tricks up your sleeve, you'll just die here. Princess Mononoke Xian'er still seemed to be trying to persuade him. The more you say that, the more I won't leave. You should know that the Tai Immortal sect is a top aristocratic family on par with the black blood demon. However, it won't be long before they're removed from the cultivation world. I didn't mean to provoke you guys, but each and every one of you chased after me endlessly for my treasures. If I didn't retaliate, you guys would really think that the cultivation world was your world. Xiao Yu shook his head and said, You should know that I planted a demon fetus in your body. If you dare to behave atrociously in front of the black blood demon, even I can make you suffer. Xian'er continued, as if she wasn't joking. If this demon fetus could harm me, you would have used it long ago. To be honest, this demon fetus has helped me a lot over the years. I've relied on it to avert danger time and time again. Xiao Yu said nonchalantly. If you don't believe me, come in and try. Xian'er turned around and flew into the depths of the black blood demon's encampment. You'd better stay here. Xiao Yu's body flashed. With a speed that even a ninth tribulation expert couldn't match, he caught up with Xian'er in an instant. However, Xiao Yu didn't expect that as soon as he reached Xian'er's side, his body would be surrounded by a dark red light shield. Then, the light shield suddenly exploded. Xiao Yu only saw a red light flash before his eyes. The scene around him immediately changed. A boundless blood-red fog rolled like a tide, and a thick, nauseating smell of blood assailed his nostrils. As for Princess Mononoke Xian'er, she wasn't in front of him. Oh no, I've entered the blood-engulfing demonic formation. Xiao Yu immediately frowned. Previously, from the outside, there was no one inside the black blood demon. Everything was quiet, but that was just a facade. Xiao Yu thought that the blood swamp demonic formation had not been activated, but in fact, it was already activated. It was just that he could not see it with his eyes. But when he asked around, he heard that when the blood nightmare demonic formation was activated, a bloody light would cover the entire black blood demon encampment. Moreover, black blood rain would fall from the entire black blood forest. However, there were no such signs at all. At this point, Xiao Yu naturally understood that the other party had not opened his arms to her, but had deliberately lured her in. Although he did not take the bait in the beginning out of caution, Xiao Yu was inevitably careless when Princess Mononoke came out alone. Based on the situation at that time, if the blood nightmare demonic formation had not been activated, Xiao Yu would definitely have been able to capture Princess Mononoke and interrogate her about the demon fetus. Even the Tai Immortal sect's 9 Palace Glaze Immortal Array could not trap me. This blood-engulfing demonic formation might not be able to do anything to me. Xiao Yu encouraged himself as he carefully sensed the surrounding environment and aura fluctuations. This time, just like the previous time, Xiao Yu did not bring Linger into the formation. He did not even bring Linger to the Black Blood Forest. This was so that he could ask for Linger's help at the crucial moment. There was only a boundless bloody mist all around. Nothing else could be seen, and there was no sound. Xiao Yu moved slowly as he thought about how to break out of the formation. Meanwhile, in the depths of the Black Blood Demon encampment, several Black Blood Demon experts and Princess Mononoke were gathered at a place that looked like an altar. A lotus that seemed to be made of black iron floated beside them. There was a screen above the altar, and Xiao Yu's image was clearly displayed on the screen. He has already been trapped by the Blood Nightmare demonic formation. He definitely won't be able to break out anytime soon. We should also prepare to wear down his cultivation. The Devil Sect Master looked at the screen for a while, then said to everyone with a smile, "Elders, please enter the formation. We will immediately use the blood-engulfing demonic formation to attack him. When his cultivation is weakened and he is physically and mentally exhausted, it will be time to use the demon fetus to deal with him." "Yes, Sect Master." The elders obeyed the order and flew away in all directions. "Senior, Please enter the formation and lend us a hand. The devil sect master cupped his fists towards the Black Lotus and requested politely. All right. Let me meet this brat again. Let me see how much he has improved over the years. After this crisp voice came out of the Black Lotus, it disappeared in a flash. Not long after, the devil sect master saw Shaolin Yu blocking the various attacks of the blood-engulfing demonic formation with the 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs. The Black Lotus had already approached Shaolin Yu's location, but it had been hiding in the dark, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Father, what is the background of this Black Lotus? Princess Mononoke asked in a low voice. When she came out of seclusion and saw the Black Lotus in the main hall, she was very suspicious. However, she noticed that the devil sex experts were very respectful towards the Black Lotus, so she didn't dare to ask. Now that the Black Lotus had entered the demonic formation, Xian'er took the opportunity to inquire. It was brought back by the Great Elder when he went out to travel. I'm not sure about its background, but it's definitely not an ordinary character. There should be the soul of a Devil Dao Senior hidden inside. The devil sect master replied calmly. From his tone, I can guess that he's not an easy person to deal with. We have to be careful. Xian'er said worriedly. There's nothing we can do about it. Back then, before the Great Elder went to the chaotic Star Ocean, he told me that the person in the Black Lotus is someone we can't afford to offend. No matter what conditions he puts forward, we'd better fulfill them. The Great Elder also said that he didn't encounter this Black Lotus by chance, but that the Black Lotus took the initiative to find him. Back then, the Great Elder fought with him, but unfortunately, although the person in the Black Lotus is only in soul form, he can control the Black Lotus without any hindrance. The Black Lotus grade is too high, so even the Great Elder is not a match for it. As the devil sect master spoke, his eyes were still fixed on the light screen. After a slight pause, he continued, fortunately, the person in the Black Lotus is also a Devil Dao cultivator. He's quite polite to us and didn't put forward any harsh and rude requests. He just borrowed our Devil Stone vein to recover, and he intends to find a good body to possess. He also promised to teach us some powerful Devil Dao cultivation methods after he recovers. He just said that he wants to meet that boy again. Did he cross paths with that boy before? Xian'er asked, puzzled. I'm not sure about that, but I think there should be some conflict in the past. Otherwise, the person in the Black Lotus wouldn't be so excited when he heard that the boy was coming. The devil sect master shook his head. That guy is really not easy to deal with. Why does he have a hand in everything? Xian'er snorted coldly. Being bold may give him more opportunities, and he may be able to seize them better, but it will also cost him his life. The devil sect master narrowed his eyes and said when he saw Shaolin Yu in the light screen struggling to hold on. I always feel that guy is a little strange. We may not be able to capture him this time, Xian'er said. He has the devil fetus you planted in him. Even if his strength is far greater than yours, as long as the blood-swallowing demonic formation and the one in the Black Lotus consume most of his power, we can easily capture him. The Devil Sex Grandmaster said with certainty. In recent years, I've always felt that the devil fetus has something else going on. The devil fetus has become stronger, but my control over it has weakened a lot. Logically speaking, this shouldn't happen. The stronger the devil fetus is, the easier it is for me to control it. Xian'er shook her head and said. This should be because that guy's strength is too strong. As long as you cast the spell when his strength is exhausted, he can only stretch out his neck and wait to be killed. The devil sect master guessed. I hope that's the case. Xian'er nodded in response, but she still felt that something was wrong. The devil fetus originally controlled more than half of Shaolin Yu's life essence and all of her soul. However, when Ling transformed into a human, all of Ling soul was added to the devil fetus. Xian'er didn't know about this change because the devil fetus was too far away from her at that time. She could only vaguely feel that the devil fetus had changed. She had always thought that it was caused by Shaolin Yu's improvement in strength. As for what this change would bring, Xian'er was naturally not prepared for it. Xiaoling Yu, who knew almost nothing about the devil fetus, was even more at a loss. All along, Xiaoling Yu's attitude towards the devil fetus was to remain vigilant but not take the initiative to touch it. He had an attitude of taking things one step at a time. However, Xiaoling Yu did not have the time to think about the devil fetus at this moment. While he was in the demonic array, he was constantly being attacked by ferocious creatures. Although these ferocious creatures could not hurt him, they could obstruct his vision and allow the blood-colored seals to easily hit him. The power of the blood-colored seal, with the support of this high-grade devil formation, was enough to break through the divine light screen cast by the devil-suppressing immortal orb. When it hit Xiaoling Yu, it made him feel a little pain. He had no choice but to use his strength to clear the evil spirits around him while resisting the blood-colored seal to clear his vision. These evil spirits were like the illusory spirits in the hallucinatory nebula. They had different forms and weren't very strong, but they wouldn't die. When they were hit by Xiaoling Yu, their bodies would disperse, but they would reform after a while. Even though Xiaoling Yu had been trying his best to clear the surroundings, he couldn't prevent the blood-colored seal from breaking through the devil-suppressing immortal orb's defense, blowing away the golden horn shield and landing on his body. At this time, Xiaoling Yu could clearly feel that this blood nightmare demonic formation surpassed the 9 Palace Glaze immortal formation in terms of strangeness and attack power. Xiaoling Yu couldn't understand this because the opponent's strongest person, Liu, wasn't in the encampment. How could the Black Blood Demon unleash such power from a high-grade devil formation? However, it didn't take long for Xiaoling Yu to understand why. While Xiaoling Yu was struggling to hold on, a black light suddenly shot towards him. At that time, he had a premonition of danger. Without thinking, he used the silver moon broken blade to meet it. But in the next moment, a few more black lights shot towards him. When the black light approached, Xiaoling Yu saw that the black light looked like the petals of a lotus flower, and it looked very familiar. Chapter 201. The appearance of the black lotus petals made Xiaoling Yu, who was exhausted, even more nervous. He quickly waved his silver moon broken blade and repelled all the petals. Then, he saw a black lotus slowly floating over. "Brat, what you did to me back then, I will return it to you 100 times over today." A fierce voice came from the black lotus. "Just don't play with your last wisp of remnant soul." Xiaoling Yu replied expressionlessly. "You still dare to be so stubborn when you're about to die. Back then, I had just broken out of the seal. Otherwise, I would have been able to kill you with just a breath. Although I haven't recovered today, I'm still more than enough to kill you." After the Black Lotus's angry voice came again, it suddenly bloomed again, and petals flew out. Xiaoling Yu didn't dare to be negligent. Immediately, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs revolved above his head to block the black petals. As for the blood-colored seals in the formation, they were barely blocked by the golden horn shield. The ancient devil didn't use any big moves. He just controlled the Black Lotus's petals to attack and deal with the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs. And after losing the defense of the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs, the evil creatures and blood-colored seals of the blood nightmare demonic formation posed a great threat to Xiaoling Yu. The golden horn shield alone couldn't protect Xiaoling Yu tightly. The blood-colored seals constantly bombarded Xiaoling Yu's body. Pain came from time to time. In order to maintain the defense, Xiaoling Yu's power was greatly consumed. Not long after, he only had 20% of his power left. However, he didn't have any chance or time to stop and absorb the energy in the immortal stones to recover. He could only rely on pills to slowly recover. In this way, Xiaoling Yu lasted for less than 2 hours before his power was completely exhausted. His aura became weaker and weaker, and the power of his defensive magic treasure was greatly reduced. What made Xiaoling Yu curious was that his strength was decreasing, but the power of the formation and the Black Lotus's attack were also slowing down and weakening. It kept him in a state of exhaustion. Could it be that they want to wear down my power to the lowest point and then capture me alive? At this point, Xiaoling Yu could also think of this, but he did not have a good way to deal with it. He had no choice but to release the puppet. However, the puppet could not buy him much time to recover. The other party's attacks were still methodical, and did not change much because of the appearance of the puppet. They were still suppressing Xiaoling Yu, and they were not very fierce. Just as the puppet could not hold on any longer and Xiaoling Yu was about to ask Linger for help, the serpent devourer of heaven that had been sleeping in the spirit beast pouch for many years finally woke up. What Xiaoling Yu did not expect was that as soon as the serpent woke up, it emitted a terrifying aura and directly caused the spirit beast bag to explode. The spirit beast pouch was also considered a space-type magic treasure. After this kind of magic treasure exploded, everything inside would fall into the spatial turbulence. However, after this spirit beast pouch exploded, the serpent was wrapped in a black hole and placed in the middle of the blood-submerging demon array. The spatial black hole had an extremely strong devouring ability. As long as the evil creatures and blood-colored seals created by the blood-submerging demon formation approached, they would be swallowed by the black hole. Even the speed and power of the petals that were moving at an extremely fast speed would be greatly reduced. Whether it was the devil sect expert controlling the formation or the one in the Black Lotus, they could not help but be surprised for a moment. My appearance this time was shocking enough, right? I won't be injured immediately after I appear this time, right? The serpent devourer of heaven thought after it came out. It felt that after following its master for so many years, it should be time for it to stand out. It no longer needed to hide in the spirit beast pouch every day and be unable to provide help to its master. These fellows who dare to go against my master, all of you shall die for this serpent, oh no, all of you shall die for this dragon. The thoughts of demonic beasts were very simple. Even though it had evolved into a mutant divine beast, the serpent devourer of heaven did not have a complicated mind. After a few moments, the spatial black hole around the serpent disappeared. It, who was covered in purple gold scales, let out an excited dragon roar. The mighty dragon power covered the sky and the earth and surged in all directions. Even though it was in a high-grade demonic formation, the power of the demonic formation could not help but stagnate for a moment at this time. Just a beast, how dare you show off your divine ability here? A disdainful voice came from the Black Lotus. Suddenly, black petals flew out. These petals did not attack directly. Instead, they gathered into a long black sword and slashed toward the serpent. The serpent was not afraid. Perhaps due to its strong confidence after its strength had greatly improved, it raised its dragon claws and directly met the attack. The quality of the long black sword was comparable to that of a top-grade immortal treasure, and the serpent's dragon claws were not weak either. After the two collided, bursts of sparks immediately appeared from the friction, and then they retreated. The long black sword then disintegrated into black petals, and the scales on the serpent's dragon claws clearly had a few more fine cracks. Although the serpent felt a sharp pain coming from the dragon claws, it did not make the slightest sound of pain. It still looked majestic and relaxed, without the slightest damage. Beast, let me see how many times you can block my sword. The petals of the Black Lotus once again gathered into a demonic sword and slashed toward the serpent. The serpent and the demonic sword had collided head-on once. It knew that the quality of the demonic sword was not inferior to that of a top-grade immortal treasure. Naturally, it would not take it head-on again. It immediately opened its dragon mouth and spat out a purple gold light beam. Although the purple gold light beam did not destroy the demonic sword, it also greatly reduced its power. Then, the serpent punched again, and the demonic sword once again collapsed into a few petals. You have some ability. As expected of a mutant dragon. But if this is all you have, you are far from being my opponent. I advise you to be sensible and retreat. After I deal with your master, you can follow me. Black Lotus said threateningly when he saw that the demonic sword could not do anything to the serpent. The serpent did not open its mouth to speak. It only swung its tail and sent a divine dragon tail whip toward Black Lotus. The divine dragon's tail whip was also a Dragon Clan battle skill. It was not an ordinary physical attack. When the dragon's tail was swung, everything in the space where the dragon's tail passed through became motionless. The dense purple gold light also completely enveloped the dragon's tail. You don't know what's good for you. Black Lotus let out an angry curse. Then, Black Lotus's entire body shone with demonic light and a black handprint slapped out. The black handprint and the purple-gold dragon tail met in the blink of an eye. Then, black light and purple-gold light burst out at the same time. The powerful force caused the blood annihilation demonic formation to shake. For a moment, Black Lotus and the serpent that had just awakened fought fiercely. However, it seemed that they were evenly matched. Under the influence of their battle, the blood annihilation demonic formation could not attack Shaolin Yu too strongly. In addition, the golden shield of Broken Horn and the 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs could provide protection for Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu already had time to recover. In front of the altar in the depths of the Black Blood Demon's encampment, the Devil Sect's sect master frowned. Several elders had sent word that if Black Lotus and the dragon continued to fight, the blood annihilation demonic formation would not be able to continue. After all, Great Elder Liu was not present. It would be difficult for these elders to fully control the demonic formation. Most importantly, Shaolin Yu was quickly recovering. If they waited any longer, even if the demonic formation could still be maintained, the previous efforts of the demonic formation would be in vain. We can't give him any more time to recover. Xian, you go in as well. The elders will use the demonic formation to help you activate the demon fetus secret technique. The Devil Sect's sect master made up his mind to instruct his daughter after some consideration. Princess Mononoke Xian had been waiting for a long time. She was the key to capturing Black Lotus. At this point, although she was still a little uncertain, she could only brace herself and enter the demonic formation. After entering the demonic formation, Xian, with the cooperation of several Devil Sect elders, smoothly made her way to Shaolin Yu. She did not continue to say those insignificant words. Instead, she sat down cross-legged with her eyes closed. Then, she began to chant an incantation. Her 10 slender fingers rapidly formed a seal. Shaolin Yu, who was controlling the immortal treasure to resist while recovering his power, suddenly felt a strange movement in his body. After carefully sensing it, he realized that the demon fetus, which had been lying quietly in his dantian, had suddenly opened its eyes. Its eyes were a little dazed, as if it had completely lost its mind. After a few moments, the demon fetus's eyes gradually became clear. Then, it directly pounced on Shaolin Yu's chaotic nascent soul. The demon fetus's strange movement caused Shaolin Yu to turn pale with fright. He hurriedly ordered the chaotic nascent soul to spit out chaotic primordial fire to resist. The demon fetus did not resist the chaotic primordial fire. It just charged straight at it. However, when the chaotic primordial fire burned the demon fetus, Shaolin Yu felt as if his own body was being burned. An excruciating pain spread through his entire body. Moreover, this pain also affected the deepest part of his soul. This demon fetus is indeed closely related to me. Hurting him is equivalent to hurting myself. After understanding this, Shaolin Yu could only order the chaotic nascent soul to stop releasing the chaotic primordial fire. This was because if this continued, even if he could burn the demon fetus, he would also die. Not far away, Princess Mononoke also heaved a sigh of relief when the chaotic primordial fire stopped. This was because she could also feel the pain. However, it was much less than Shaolin Yu's. If Shaolin Yu really destroyed the devil fetus, he would die, and so would the daughter of the devil sect, Jin Xian. Not only Princess Mononoke and Shaolin Yu, but even Ling, who was outside the Black Blood Forest, also felt the pain when the demon fetus was being burned by the chaotic primordial fire. Moreover, her degree of pain was no different from Shaolin Yu's. Without waiting for Shaolin Yu to call for backup, Ling directly entered the Black Blood Forest. She quickly rushed towards the Black Blood Demon's base. Without the chaotic primordial fire's protection, the demon fetus very easily approached the chaotic nascent soul. Then, it directly pounced on it and started tearing at it with large bites. Shaolin Yu knew that Princess Mononoke was using a secret technique to kill him. Fortunately, he let go and let the chaotic nascent soul and the demon fetus tear at each other. Chapter 202. At this moment, his soul and body were almost completely separated. Xiaoling Yu knew that he was done for. His first thought was to release the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm as well. Then, he removed the master recognition between the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm and the Serpent Devourer of Heaven, returning their freedom. These two pets had followed him for many years and suffered a lot. Xiaoling Yu wouldn't let them die with him. Even now, Xiaoling Yu didn't regret coming to the Black Blood Demon because he would have to face this demon fetus sooner or later. The backlash from the demon fetus was unavoidable, unless he became a slave to the Black Blood Demon in the future. Linger had just entered the Black Blood Forest, but at this moment, she felt the same as Xiaoling Yu. Her soul seemed to be getting further and further away from her, and gradually, it no longer belonged to her. Her movements immediately stopped. This feeling of the soul and body being separated by two different spaces had been maintained. But strangely, Xiaoling Yu could still feel the existence of his soul and body. He just couldn't control them. Bastard, your master is about to die. Are you still going to stubbornly resist? The person in the Black Lotus could naturally see Xiaoling Yu's situation and immediately shouted at the Serpent Devourer of Heaven proudly. The serpent was still able to determine its master's situation through its mental connection with Xiaoling Yu. Unfortunately, that mental connection had completely disappeared. Although its intelligence wasn't very high, it knew that its master had removed the master recognition with it. It also knew that its master didn't want to implicate it. This made the Devourer of Heaven very grateful. For many years, it didn't feel like it had done much for its master, but it relied on everything its master had provided to reach its current level. Even if the master recognition was removed, it would still treat Xiaoling Yu as its master and follow him forever. Roar! The serpent let out an earth-shattering dragon roar, and the purplish gold light around its body became even stronger. Heavy and incomprehensible syllables came out of its mouth, and every syllable could shake the space. Innate divine ability? You want to use your innate ability in front of me? No way! The Black Lotus instantly disintegrated. The sky was filled with black petals and black demonic flames. In an instant, the space around the snake was completely sealed. And at the original location of the Black Lotus, there was a tall shadow floating with his hands behind his back. His expression was cold, and his eyes were slightly narrowed, like a peerless expert looking down on the world. This was the ancient devil that had been hiding in the Black Lotus demonic treasure. However, from the outside, he looked more like an influential figure who had been in a high position for a long time. Although the body of the Serpent Devourer of Heaven was incomparably huge, at this time, there was no trace of it at all. There was only a rolling and roaring demonic flame in its place. Vaguely, a purple-gold radiance could be seen flashing out, and a dragon's roar could be heard. As for the Ice Soul Heavenly Silkworm, it was still a snow-white ball. Its reaction had been relatively slow, and it probably hadn't figured out the situation yet. After the chaotic nascent soul was devoured by the demonic fetus, Xiaoling Yu felt that his soul had already drifted into a different world. His 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs and golden shield of broken horn lost control, and their radiance gradually dimmed. Then, they no longer provided protection for Xiaoling Yu's body. However, at this time, the Blood Nightmare demonic formation's attack on Xiaoling Yu's body immediately stopped. This was because the ancient devil had said that he wanted this body. The demonic sect elders controlling the demonic formation didn't dare to lightly harm this body. In the eyes of all the demonic sect cultivators, Xiaoling Yu had already been controlled by the demonic fetus secret technique, and there was no way he could make a comeback. However, Princess Mononoke Xian'er, who was using the demonic fetus secret technique, was even more nervous than Xiaoling Yu. This was because her demonic fetus secret technique felt powerless. She had already used all her strength, but she could only go so far. She couldn't continue. Under normal circumstances, the demonic fetus should have refined the opponent's chaotic nascent soul's energy, and then come out of the opponent's body. Then, the cultivator using the demonic fetus secret technique would use a secret technique to erase the opponent's consciousness, and completely refine the opponent's soul power. Only then would the demonic fetus secret technique be considered complete. However, it was only halfway through. This demonic fetus secret technique was actually an evil technique that implanted a demonic fetus in someone's body. After a period of time, when the person achieved great success, the demonic fetus secret technique would be completely stripped of the person's cultivation results. Many years ago, some of the demonic sect cultivators used this demonic fetus secret technique to rapidly increase their strength. Cultivators who were implanted with the demonic fetus secret technique were like pigs and cows in a pen. Once they were fattened up, it was time for them to be slaughtered. However, at this point, Princess Mononoke couldn't continue using this secret technique. This was because the demonic fetus secret technique was too powerful. Although the demonic fetus secret technique could devour it, it was very slow to refine it. At this rate, the demonic fetus secret technique wouldn't be able to digest the powerful energy within a few hundred years. Princess Mononoke and the other demonic sect cultivators didn't know that Xiaolingyu cultivated the chaotic energy. After some thought, Princess Mononoke bit her lip and skipped the step of refining the demonic fetus secret technique. She directly released the demonic fetus secret technique. This time, there were no surprises. Under the control of Xian'er's secret technique, the demonic fetus secret technique floated out of Xiaolingyu's head. First, I'll erase his soul consciousness. No matter how powerful he is, he'll still die. With this thought, Xian'er changed the incantation and the seal. She wanted to use the secret technique to erase his soul consciousness. However, the demonic fetus secret technique alone wasn't enough to erase his soul consciousness. After all, the demonic fetus secret technique wasn't made of spiritual energy. This step required Xian'er's own soul to enter the demonic fetus secret technique. Then, the demonic fetus secret technique would refine the demonic fetus secret technique. During the refining process, the demonic fetus secret technique wouldn't be able to retaliate. It would only be refined slowly, no matter how powerful the demonic fetus secret technique was. Once the demonic fetus secret technique was activated, it couldn't be stopped midway. Otherwise, Xian'er would be in danger of being devoured by the demonic fetus secret technique. This was why she skipped the step of refining the demonic fetus secret technique instead of stopping the secret technique. There was no turning back. Xian'er, who was also putting all her eggs in one basket, immediately let her soul out of her body. Waves of soul power that were about to condense into water droplets all surged into the space between the devil fetus eyebrows. However, what shocked Xian'er was that there were two spiritual auras in the demonic fetus secret technique. They clearly didn't belong to the same cultivator. What was going on? When did the demonic fetus secret technique devour another cultivator's soul? Princess Mononoke Xian'er's soul was immediately stunned. Although the demonic fetus secret technique was magical, it had always been a demonic fetus controlling a cultivator. The secret technique had never mentioned how to deal with the demonic fetus secret technique if there were two cultivators' souls in it. No wonder I always felt that there was something wrong with the demonic fetus. So this is where the abnormality lies. What should I do now? Xian'er didn't know what to do. However, she had already activated the demonic fetus secret technique. She had to persevere. At this point, even her spiritual energy couldn't retreat. Of course, even if her spiritual energy was still outside her body, she couldn't stop the secret technique. She could only brace herself and continue. Unless she already knew about the situation in the demonic fetus and didn't activate the secret technique, she would be spared. There were two spiritual auras in the demonic fetus secret technique. One was released by a colorful golden pearl, while the other was released by an almost completely transparent spiritual energy in liquid form. Judging from the spiritual auras, it was obvious that the golden pearl was of a higher grade. I'll refine the weaker one first. After thinking for a moment, Xian'er controlled her spiritual energy and pounced on Linger's spiritual energy. Anyone would have made the same choice at this moment. When they didn't know what to do, they would often choose the easy option first and then the difficult one. They would take it one step at a time. Refining Linger's spiritual energy wasn't too difficult. Xian'er only used 4 hours to complete the process. However, she never expected that just as she refined the spiritual energy, her spiritual energy would be controlled by the secret technique and returned to her body. Originally, at this stage of the secret technique, the demonic fetus should have returned to her body. However, because the demonic fetus hadn't completely refined Shaolin Yu's chaotic energy and Xian'er had skipped this step, only her spiritual energy that had devoured Linger's spiritual energy returned. The demonic fetus still had to continue refining the chaotic energy. However, at this stage, the demonic fetus secret technique had ended. Shaolin Yu's spiritual energy hadn't been refined. After the secret technique ended, the demonic fetus stopped refining the chaotic energy. Xian'er could no longer control the demonic fetus. She could only use the secret technique once on a demonic fetus. After the secret technique ended, Shaolin Yu immediately felt that his spiritual energy was finally connected to his body again. With just a thought, the demonic fetus returned to his dantian. He was delighted to find that the demonic fetus was now completely under his control. The demonic fetus originally contained an enormous amount of energy. After devouring a large amount of chaotic energy from Shaolin Yu's chaotic nascent soul, it could now be considered a chaotic demon nascent soul. It was now Shaolin Yu's chaotic demon nascent soul. Shaolin Yu's intuition told him that his power had increased by more than 10 times. He was almost at the peak of the late stage of the chaotic convergence period. His condition had reached an unprecedented peak. He had complete control over his spiritual energy. Large amounts of life essence from the demonic fetus continuously flowed into his body. He couldn't help but moan in pleasure. Waves of domineering, vigorous, and sinister demonic chi surged through the blood engulfing demonic formation. Just these waves of demonic chi were enough to make the blood engulfing demonic formation shake. Neither the ferocious creatures nor the blood-colored dermic seals could pass through these waves of demonic chi to get close to Shaolin Yu. Princess Mononoke Xian'er was dumbfounded. All the energy in the demonic fetus should have belonged to her. The Devil Sect Master and the other Devil Sect elders were also dumbfounded. They had thought that this was a foolproof plan, but it had turned out like this. Even the illusory figure in the Black Lotus stared at them with furrowed brows. He couldn't understand why the demonic fetus secret technique had ended up like this. What a bunch of trash! The illusory figure cursed. He waved his hand and withdrew his Black Lotus, wrapping it around his body. After the Black Lotus closed, he flew out of the formation. You can't leave this time. Chapter 203. The Black Lotus had just flown less than 100 feet when it was hit by the mutant seal. Suddenly, the Black Lotus, which was not inferior to a top-grade immortal treasure, disintegrated after an explosion. Dozens of black petals sputtered in all directions, and at the place where the Black Lotus magic treasure was, the shadow of the fierce demon appeared in a very sorry state. However, even if it was the fierce demon of the ancient cultivation world, under such circumstances, it was no longer as brave as it was in the past. It also did not have the slightest bit of the momentum and dignity of an expert. Its protective magic treasure was destroyed, and it immediately prepared to continue fleeing without looking back. If this ancient demon recovered half of its strength, or even a tenth of it, it would not be so sorry in front of Shaolin Yu. However, it had been suppressed for too many years, and it had not been long since it broke out of the seal, so it was impossible for it to recover much of its strength. Shaolin Yu still did not move at all. With a thought, the 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs flew out at an extremely fast speed. After a breath of time, they surrounded the illusory demon and cast a divine light barrier to seal it. The shadow of the fierce demon was very afraid of the sacred light shield of the demon-suppressing immoral orbs. It did not dare to touch it at all, let alone rush out. It was only a remnant soul, and it had lost its protective magic treasure. Even if it had some magical power, it could only be a turtle in a jar now. The scattered petals automatically gathered together again, forming a Black Lotus-shaped magic treasure. However, its owner was completely sealed, and it could only float quietly in the air. Shaolin Yu walked in front of the Black Lotus, and with a wave of his sleeve, the Black Lotus disappeared without a trace. He then came in front of the 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs and looked at the trapped ominous demon remnant soul with contempt. He said, "I told you before, don't play with your last strand of ominous demon remnant soul, but you didn't listen. Now it's too late for regrets, right?" The remnant soul of the fierce demon was very angry, but it turned and said, "Boy. Oh no, little brother, you should let this old man go this time. I'll agree to whatever conditions you have. I can teach you a lot of ancient cultivation methods, and a lot of information that you might be interested in." Shaolin Yu sneered and said, "I'm not interested in these things, and I don't want to negotiate with you. You've lived for so long, you must be tired of living. Go on your way." As his words fell, the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs simultaneously shot out divine light swords at the divine light barrier. The wails of pain emitted from the soul continued, and the phantom gradually became more illusory. It was a remnant soul to begin with. If it could withstand such an attack from a supreme-grade immortal artifact, it would only take a few breaths of time before the remnant soul of the primordial devil was completely annihilated. After putting away the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs and the puppets, Shaolin Yu arrived in front of the Devourer of Heaven. At this moment, the experts of the Black Blood Demon and Princess Mononoke Xian finally regained their senses. The Blood Nightmare demonic formation once again exploded with power. Unfortunately, whether it was the evil spirits or the blood-colored seals, they were all swept away by Shaolin Yu's aura when they got close to him. They were completely useless. The Devourer of Heaven was injured, but this time was different from the past. In the past, even if it was injured, it didn't make any outstanding contributions. This time, it helped Shaolin Yu stall the primordial devil at a critical moment. The icy soul heavenly silkworm seemed to have just recovered. Although Shaolin Yu had already removed its relationship with it, it still floated on Shaolin Yu's shoulder, looking very obedient and cute. It seems that the Black Blood Demon has no need to continue existing in the cultivation world. After Shaolin Yu adapted to his body, he smiled at Princess Mononoke and then appeared in front of her in a flash. "What do you want?" Xian asked nervously. "What do I want? Your Black Blood Demon has been chasing me for a long time, and you almost took away my cultivation. What do you think I should do now that I've survived?" Shaolin Yu asked with a cold smile. "You want to kill me?" Xian asked again. There were too many strange things today, so her reaction was very slow. "Humph. Not only you, but also your entire Black Blood Demon." As Shaolin Yu spoke, his killing intent uncontrollably gushed out. Perhaps it was because his chaos nascent soul had been demonized, his killing intent was much thicker than usual. "You're too arrogant. My Black Blood Demon has been passed down for countless years. How can I be destroyed just like that? Also, if you kill me, the one whose soul I refine will also die with me." Xian forced herself to be calm as she spoke. "You can keep her for now, but everyone else from the demonic sect will die." After Shaolin Yu finished speaking, he imprisoned Xian and turned to the Serpent Devourer of Heaven. "I'll leave her to you. Keep an eye on her." Then he continuously performed the Chaos Seal, sending the mutated yin-yang fish seal that carried demonic qi in all directions. Although the Blood Nightmare demonic formation was a high-grade demonic formation, it didn't have a powerhouse like Liu controlling it. Under the bombardment of Shaolin Yu's seals, it only lasted for the time it took to drink a cup of tea before it completely collapsed. The formation's power automatically dissipated. The blood-red fog dissipated, and everything in front of them gradually became clear. A group of Black Blood Demon elders gathered together with pale faces. They were all in front of the altar in the depths of the demonic sect's encampment, surrounding the demonic sect's sect master. The demonic sect's sect master had been forcefully attacked by Shaolin Yu, and they were all heavily injured. "I'm afraid the Black Blood Demon is finished in our generation," the demonic sect's sect master said with a dispirited expression. "Sect master, let's fight it out with him." "At most, we'll die," a seventh tribulation elder said agitatedly. "Fight? Fight with what?" Right now, the Great Elder isn't in the sect, and our blood nightmare demonic formation is completely useless. Even that person has been. The demonic sect master shook his head. But we can't just watch our demonic sect be destroyed like this, right? An elder said anxiously. Just as the demonic sect elders were burning with anxiety, Xiaoling Yu arrived outside the demonic sect's encampment because he sensed Linger's aura. After finding Ling-Er, Xiaoling Yu's expression was very ugly because Ling-Er was unconscious. Her body had been switching back and forth between reality and illusion. Upon closer inspection, he found that Ling-Er had lost her vitality, and her life essence was slowly dissipating. Any cultivator, no matter how strange they were, as long as they lost their soul, their physical body could only wait for it to dissipate. Xiaoling Yu wanted to put away Ling-Er's body, but unfortunately, Ling-Er's body was too special. It had always existed between reality and illusion, so he couldn't take it away. Even if he wanted to protect it temporarily, there was no way. How can I save her? Xiaoling Yu asked Princess Mononoke Xian'er. As long as you can swear that you won't be enemies with the demonic sect, I'll tell you the way to save her. Xian'er replied. You don't have the right to negotiate with me now. Xiaoling Yu's 10 fingers moved in succession, and a mutated primal chaos seal was formed. Then, without any pause, he blasted the seal out. The mutated primal chaos seal's power was far greater than the previous one. It exploded in the depths of the demonic sect's encampment. The demonic sect's encampment, which was originally a hill, was immediately torn apart, and a large hole appeared in the center. This time, more than half of the Black Blood Demon's encampment had been turned into ruins. At least 1,000 low-level loose demons or Great Ascension stage experts of the demonic sect died tragically. The rest of the demonic sect's experts and disciples all flew up, staring at Xiaoling Yu like frightened birds. Then, they all surrounded the demonic sect's sect master. These were the elites of the demonic sect. When they were selected by the demonic sect to be focused on training, they needed to swear eternal loyalty to the demonic sect, so even at this time, no one dared to leave. Are you going to tell me or not? Xiaoling Yu asked Princess Mononoke again. Xian'er bit her red lips. Although her face was stubborn, when she saw the terrified demonic sect cultivators, as well as the many demonic sect experts, she said with certainty, if you don't agree to stop, I won't tell you anything. Stop? When you were chasing me before, did you ever think of stopping? Now that you can't do it, you want me to stop? Is there such a logic in this world? Are you saying that only you can kill me, and I can't kill you in turn? Xiaoling Yu asked with righteous indignation. In the next moment, another mutated chaotic seal was formed. Without waiting for a moment, Xiaoling Yu casually sent it out. The chaotic seal whizzed out, specifically hitting the demonic sect cultivators where they were gathered. Boom! Another explosion sounded in the depths of the Black Blood Demon's encampment. Hundreds of demonic sect cultivators who didn't have time to dodge died in an instant. At this time, Xiaoling Yu was more like a vicious and merciless demonic sect cultivator. He stood in the air with his hands behind his back, facing thousands of demonic sect experts alone, but not a single demonic sect cultivator dared to come up to challenge him. His long hair and clothes fluttered in the wind, and a purple-gold dragon circled around his body. He was like a demon god who had descended from the 9 heavens, and he could kill all of the loose demons and Grand Ascension stage cultivators with a wave of his hand. The changes in the Black Blood Demon's encampment naturally alarmed the entire Black Blood continent. Countless demonic sect experts gathered, and they all looked at the Black Blood Demon's encampment with disbelief. Their leader, who was like a god in their hearts, had been reduced to such a pathetic state today. This was a shock to them, and they found it difficult to accept. Xiaoling Yu's confrontation with thousands of demonic sect experts in the air was a little too obvious, and all of the cultivators who had rushed over could naturally see it. Everyone couldn't help but wonder, could it be that this person was the one who had reduced the Black Blood Demon to such a sorry state? Are you still not going to speak? My patience is limited, Xiaoling Yu said to Xian'er again. Tears welled up in Xian'er's eyes as she cursed herself for provoking such a jinx. After a short while, she sighed and said, it's not that I don't want to speak, but there's nothing I can do. Her spiritual consciousness has already been erased. Unless a new soul is implanted in her body, she won't be able to come back to life. Implanting a new soul? What's the difference between that and being possessed? Xiaoling Yu was even more enraged. He let loose a soft cry, and 6 demonic immoral orbs flew out in all directions, following which 6 explosions sounded from all over the demonic sect's encampment. Chapter 204. In the past, no matter how difficult it was for Xiaoling Yu to be hunted down, the people around him, as well as his own pets, did not suffer any losses. Even if they were slightly injured at the time, they could recover later and continue to improve. Thus, even when Xiaoling Yu suffered losses and hardships, he never did anything too extreme. It was rare for him to feel uncontrollable killing intent and anger boiling in his chest. However, this time was different. Linger's soul had been destroyed, and there was nothing he could do to reverse the situation. Although Linger didn't speak much and didn't express his thoughts, he had always been loyal to Xiaoling Yu. In times of danger, he had helped him several times. Xiaoling Yu already saw him as a comrade, and wasn't completely emotionless. Furthermore, Linger had essentially died in place of Xiaoling Yu. If Linger's soul hadn't been in the devil fetus, Xiaoling Yu's soul would have been destroyed by now, and his cultivation over the years would have gone to someone else. At this time, Princess Mononoke told Xiaoling Yu that she had no way of saving Linger. Xiaoling Yu was naturally furious. After the 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs were sent out, they didn't return. Instead, under Xiaoling Yu's control, they each guarded an area and surrounded the black blood demon experts who had gathered together. Today, you will all be buried with Linger. The corners of Xiaoling Yu's mouth curled into a cruel sneer. His hands formed the chaotic seal again. Stop! When the daughter of the devil sect shouted this sentence, the chaotic seal with devil chi had already been blasted out, and hundreds of devil sect loose devils or Dashang stage cultivators with weaker cultivation base were blown to death. Xiaoling Yu looked coldly at Princess Mononoke and asked with glowing eyes, "What, you have something to say? Enough people have died today. My devil sect has also suffered a great loss. I hope that you can be lenient and don't be too ruthless. I can understand that you want to take revenge, but now that the devil sect has become like this, can't you vent your anger?" Princess Mononoke said emotionally. You have only yourselves to blame. Don't say that I'm ruthless. You should have thought of this when you chased after me. Xiaoling Yu glanced at Xian'er, then said, "Don't worry, you're one of the main culprits. You were also the one who chased after me. You were also the one who planted the devil fetus in me and killed Linger." As he said this, Xiaoling Yu waved his hand and sent out another primal chaos seal, and several hundred more devil sect cultivators died on the spot. At this time, there were already devil sect disciples who couldn't resist the threat of death and fled out of the encampment. Unfortunately, with the obstruction of the devil-suppressing immoral orb, they couldn't leave at all unless their cultivation was above the 6th tribulation. However, the loose devils above the 6th tribulation were now by the devil sect's sect master's side. Without the sect master's order, they didn't dare to leave easily, because the devil sect held their lives in their hands. Let's fight it out with him. A devil sect elder couldn't stand it anymore. The other party clearly wanted to kill them all. Even if they didn't fight with their lives, they wouldn't be able to keep their lives in the end. They might as well fight it out, at least they could die with a bang. However, as soon as the devil sect elder, who was only at the 6th tribulation, rushed out, Xiaoling Yu flashed in front of him. Before he could do anything, Xiaoling Yu had already kicked his lower abdomen. The cultivator's body didn't fly out because Xiaoling Yu used too much strength. His body directly exploded at the tip of Xiaoling Yu's foot. Even the devil infant in his dantian didn't have time to appear before it was shattered. "Thief, kill us all if you have the ability." Another elder rushed out, but after him, the other devil sect elders who were originally gathered in front of the devil sect's sect master all followed. "It's easier than killing them one by one if you send yourselves to me." Xiaoling Yu had a disdainful expression. His body flashed, and in the next moment, he directly killed his way into the enemy's crowd. Without the 9 tribulations here, Xiaolingyu was simply invincible. He was like a tiger rushing into a flock of sheep. One by one, the Devil Sect elders exploded and died under his punches and kicks. Even the 9 tribulations would only die if they faced Xiaolingyu now without a particularly powerful magic treasure, let alone these loose devils who hadn't even reached the 9 tribulations. In less than 10 breaths of time, none of the Devil Sect elders around Xiaolingyu were floating in the air. Only his lonely figure and a strong smell of blood remained in the air. Today, the Black Blood Demon was even more miserable than the Tai Immoral Sect. Not only was the encampment completely destroyed, even the elders who could be considered experts were killed, leaving only Liu. Even if they could still struggle at death's door in the future, they would definitely be destroyed within 1,000 years. And that Liu was also the person that Xiaolingyu swore to kill. I shouldn't have. The Devil Sect leader saw the experts of the Devil Sect fall one by one. In his grief, he actually slapped his own head, and then his body exploded. As the Devil Sect leader, he knew that it was impossible for anyone to survive. The other party had no reason to let him go. Seeing that the Devil Sect, which was at its peak, was about to be destroyed in his own hands, he could only choose to atone for his sins with death, rather than die in front of the other party. Father! No! Tears welled up in Princess Mononoke's eyes. Unfortunately, she could only shout, but she couldn't move at all. The rest of you, disperse. Xiaolingyu looked at the trembling Devil Sect disciples, waved his hand, and took back the 6 devil-suppressing immoral pearls, and then said. The Black Blood Demon had already received a very severe punishment. Although Xiaolingyu's heart was still surging with killing intent, he gradually calmed down and didn't want to kill anymore. The Devil Sect cultivators all felt as if they had been pardoned, and all of them fled for their lives without looking back. Although they had made an oath when they entered the Devil Sect had already been destroyed, and the sect leader and many elders had already died. Naturally, they were no longer bound by that oath. After all, swearing loyalty didn't mean that they had to die at such a time. Everyone in the Black Blood Forest, you have 10 minutes to leave. Otherwise, you'll be killed without mercy. Xiaolingyu's voice was very clear, and it shook the entire Black Blood Forest. The Devil Sect cultivators who heard this had a great change in expression, and then they retreated out of the Black Blood Forest at full speed. To be able to single-handedly destroy the powerful Black Blood Devil Sect, these Devil Dao cultivators did not dare to go against his will. Take Binger for a stroll in the forest. If anyone doesn't listen and doesn't leave, just kill them. Xiaolingyu instructed the Serpent Devourer of Heaven, then brought Princess Mononoke and Linger's bodies into the ruins of the Black Blood Demon's encampment. At this point, Xiaolingyu had no need to hide from those so-called top experts of the cultivation world, so he didn't leave this place. He wanted to wait here for those experts to come over. I'll give you one more chance. If you still can't give me a satisfactory answer, don't waste your time. Not to mention that I don't have a way, even if I did, I wouldn't tell you. Without waiting for Xiaolingyu to finish speaking, Princess Mononoke unyieldingly continued, if you want to kill me, then kill me. I'm not a coward who's afraid of death. Since that's the case, I can only take the last resort. After Xiaolingyu finished speaking, he pointed a finger at Princess Mononoke's forehead. Then, his tyrannical soul energy surged into Xian'er's mind and completely enveloped her soul. After searching her soul, Xiaolingyu directly erased her soul consciousness. In Xian'er's soul memories, there was indeed no way to save Linger. Xiaolingyu didn't need to continue entangling with Xian'er. Directly eliminating her would be the most convenient. Since I can't save the original Linger, I can only create a new Linger. Xiaolingyu muttered to himself for a moment. Then, he swept out Xian'er's soul and sent it into Linger's mind. After an hour, Xiaolingyu finally withdrew his soul energy and began to wait quietly. 3 days later, Linger miraculously woke up. However, when she woke up, her eyes were empty and her face was expressionless. She looked around blankly. Xiaolingyu had used the possession technique to revive Linger. However, her consciousness was completely blank. She didn't know who she was or what her past was. Fortunately, Princess Mononoke had refined Linger's soul. Otherwise, the possession technique wouldn't have been completed. After all, Linger's body was too unique. Not all kinds of souls could adapt to and possess her body. Your name is Linger. You're cultivated from a mutated illusory spirit grass. You have a very powerful devouring ability. Normally, you rely on devouring illusory spirits to increase your strength. Your body can freely switch between reality and illusion. When you're in an illusory state, you can ignore all physical attacks. As long as your soul isn't destroyed, you're as good as immortal. You'll have to follow me forever. I'll treat you like a sister. You can't betray me in the slightest. To Xiaoling Yu's surprise, he waited in the ruins of the Black Blood Demon's encampment for 2 whole years. Those so-called top experts of the self-cultivator realm still hadn't come. Even they have times when they're afraid? Xiaoling Yu sneered and left the Black Blood continent. The Serpent Devourer of Heaven and the Frosty Soul Heavenly Silkworm also voluntarily returned to Xiaoling Yu's spirit beast pouch. However, Xiaoling Yu didn't ask them to acknowledge him as their master. It wasn't that Li Yu and the others didn't hate Xiaoling Yu and didn't want to kill Xiaoling Yu anymore. However, when they heard that Xiaoling Yu had also destroyed the Black Blood Demon, they were all terrified. The Demon Kings all returned to the demon realm. Naturally, those experts from other races didn't have the guts to look for Xiaoling Yu again. Of the group of experts who were originally hunting Xiaoling Yu, only the homeless Li Yu and Gingjiao were left. The 2 of them hated Xiaoling Yu to the core. Although they weren't willing to give up the hunt, they knew that they couldn't kill Xiaoling Yu with just the 2 of them. If they rashly went over, they would only be sending themselves to their deaths. Brotherly, what should the 2 of us do now? Don't tell me we're going to hide and wait to ascend to the immortal realm? Gingjia asked Li Yu on a nameless planet. If you're really afraid, then find a place to hide, Li Yu said with a gloomy face. Gingjia shook his head bitterly and said, it's not that I'm afraid. That kid really isn't someone we can fight against. If we can't fight against him, then is he invincible in the self-cultivator realm? Li Yu continued. Is there anyone in the self-cultivator realm who can kill him? Gingjia asked curiously. Yes, but that person might not be willing to help us, Li Yu replied with certainty. Who is it? Who is he? Gingjia asked again. Chapter 205. After leaving the Black Blood continent, Xiaoling Yu found an uninhabited planet and recuperated for a few years. His main purpose was to let his Chaos Demon nascent soul fuse more thoroughly and to give the new Linger some time to digest everything about him. A few years passed quickly. One day, Xiaoling Yu suddenly opened his eyes and murmured, in at most 100 years, I will ascend to the immortal realm. Before a cultivator ascended to the immortal realm, they would have this feeling in their heart for no reason. They could roughly estimate the date of their ascension. In these few years, the Linger had more or less familiarized himself with his body and soul. He also gradually mastered the various divine powers that he possessed. His overall strength was stronger than before. The previous Linger did not have much consciousness and memory. What was erased was only the time with Xiaoling Yu. In fact, it was not a big deal. Moreover, when the previous Linger had just gained consciousness, he had resisted Xiaoling Yu and tried to destroy Xiaoling Yu's soul. The new Linger would definitely be loyal to Xiaoling Yu. The dragon pearl of the 5-clawed golden dragon was still in the serpent's stomach. It was slowly being absorbed and digested by the Serpent Devourer of Heaven. The Serpent Devourer of Heaven's strength was also improving rapidly. However, it had also passed the heavenly tribulation and would soon ascend to the immortal realm. Now that Xiaoling Yu had reached the peak of the late stage of the Chaos Convergence period, it was indeed not suitable for him to stay in the immortal realm. This was because the cultivators in this realm were no threat to him. He had to go to a higher realm to continue improving. However, before he ascended, Xiaoling Yu still had a few things to take care of. First, he had to continue searching for his parents. Second, he had to find Li Yu for revenge. Third, he had to see Anya again. Xiaoling Yu planned to see Anya again last. After all, Anya was easy to find. And looking for her parents and looking for Liu could be done at the same time. After all, to Xiaoling Yu, these two things were like looking for a needle in a haystack. In the following days, Xiaoling Yu began to teleport continuously. Every time she arrived at a cultivation continent, she would take out the tracking spirit mirror to search for traces of her parents and Liu. Two of the three top clans in the cultivation world had already been destroyed, causing the closest cultivation world to be very unstable. Everywhere, there were surging winds and clouds. The forces of the immoral path and the devil path, both large and small, were busy fighting for the leadership position. This was especially true for the demonic path. Their battles were extremely cruel. At the slightest turn of events, large and small forces would be completely annihilated, resulting in countless casualties. For demonic Dao cultivators, whoever became a recognized top powerhouse would have the authority to control the entire demonic Dao territory. This was something that no powerful demonic Dao sect was willing to give up easily. On the other hand, the immoral path was vast and boundless. There were countless sects of various sizes. There were even dozens of sects that were second only to the Tai immoral sect in strength. They either merged to strengthen their forces or roped in powerful cultivators to prepare for a high-profile rise to the top. Before the demonic Dao had a result, the immoral path had already settled down. But what everyone did not expect was that in the end, the publicly recognized top powerhouse of the immoral path was actually a shop. Xiaoling Yu also knew the shop. It was the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop. The reason why the Kunlun Rare Treasure Shop could become the top powerhouse of the immoral path was that their grand elder, Sima Jin, had just successfully passed the 9th heavenly tribulation and became a top powerhouse of the immoral path. With this 9th tribulation powerhouse holding the fort, naturally, no one dared to challenge them. The two 9th tribulation powerhouses, Dingjia and Liu, were about to ascend to the immoral world. They no longer had the intention to support any sect to become the top powerhouse. They also did not have the time. What they wanted to do most now was to kill Xiaoling Yu before they ascended. After searching for more than 10 years, Xiaoling Yu did not know how many cultivation continents he had visited, but he could not find any traces of his parents or Liu. But he did manage to find many of his former classmates or college classmates, as well as childhood playmates. Those he could find were all relatively young people during the end of the earth. None of them were over 40 years old. From this, he could almost conclude that only the young people were lucky enough to escape the calamity. As for not being able to find Liu, Xiaoling Yu could actually understand. Now that he was so powerful, as long as Liu did not deliberately seek death, he would definitely hide on an uninhabited planet and wait to ascend. The immoral path was vast and boundless. Xiaoling Yu could not possibly search those planets one by one. As a result, searching for his parents and Liu became an almost impossible task. After persevering for a while, Xiaoling Yu felt that he could not waste any more time, so he decided to make another trip to the chaotic astral sea. As for those powerhouses of the demon clan who had once hunted him down, Xiaoling Yu did not take it to heart. After all, they did not get what they wanted and did not cause him much losses. The most important thing was that they had hunted him down because he had snatched the dragon pearl of their 5-clawed golden dragon. Now that they were very sensible and did not come looking for trouble, why should he make things difficult for them? Furthermore, the strength of the demon clan in the immoral realm was also very strong. It was said that the demon clan in the lower realm could contact the immoral realm through secret channels. Xiaoling Yu did not want to bring great losses to the demon clan in the cultivation world just because of a moment of anger, and then be hunted down by the demon clan in the immoral realm. Xiaoling Yu was not the kind of person who did not know when to stop. The reason why he had destroyed the Tai immoral sect and the Black Blood Demon was that he had no choice but to do so. Secondly, they had only themselves to blame. What Xiaoling Yu did not know was that while he was looking for someone, someone was also looking for him. The young cultivator from the immoral world naturally knew about the destruction of the Tai immoral sect and the Black Blood Demon. He also knew about the existence of Xiaoling Yu. After some careful investigation, the young cultivator from the immortal world found another very important clue. That was that Shaolin Yu had been to the Seven Do continent with many top powerhouses of the immoral world. From this, he could deduce some things. He felt that it was very necessary for him to find those powerhouses of the immoral world and have a chat. That seemingly cute little girl was still following him, but it did not affect his work. Moreover, he was still unable to get rid of that little girl. After a long time, he could only choose to ignore her. The young cultivator from the immortal world first made a trip to the demon race. After a detailed discussion with a few demon kings, he was able to confirm that the problem should lie with Shaolin Yu. Therefore, after leaving the demon race, he had been releasing his divine sense to the fullest and began a carpet search of the entire immoral world. This was nothing to a cultivator from the immoral world. However, even if he was from the immoral world, it would take a long time to search the entire immoral world with his divine sense. Fortunately, when he came down, his master did not set a deadline for this task. He had a lot of time to find someone. Bingjia and Liu did not hide. Instead, after some discussion, they were teleported to the Eight Extremities continent. The Eight Extremities continent was the territory of the Eight Extremities Sword sect, a top-notch sect in the immoral world. However, it was not a prosperous immoral world, but an extremely desolate and large continent. It was said that the Eight Extremities continent was very prosperous in the ancient times. However, because it was so prosperous in the ancient times, the immoral world's resources had long been mined clean. Moreover, there were countless battles that took place here. The entire continent was like a ruin, desolate and bleak. Not to mention that the Eight Extremities Sword sect had already said that no cultivator was allowed to enter the Eight Extremities continent at will. Moreover, the Eight Extremities Sword sect also refused to allow any cultivators to come here for sightseeing or business. Even if the Eight Extremities Sword sect opened its doors, it was likely that not many cultivators would be willing to come here to enjoy the cool breeze. Unlike many sects in the immoral world, the Eight Extremities Sword sect's territory did not have any rich material resources, nor did it have any immortal stone veins. Sword cultivators cultivated sword elemental energy. This kind of energy could only be obtained through years of bitter cultivation. Relying on external forces to improve was not the style of a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators were very lonely throughout their lives. They were infatuated with sword cultivation and had always been with the sword. They used their hearts to comprehend sword Tao, so they were very proud. In their hearts, they believed that one sword could break 10,000 techniques. Therefore, sword cultivators' cultivation realm was the most stable. In addition, the sword Tao techniques and sword elemental energy that they cultivated were very powerful in terms of attack. Therefore, everyone generally believed that sword cultivators were invincible in a battle of the same level. Moreover, surpassing levels to challenge sword cultivators was synonymous with sword cultivators. However, although sword cultivators were powerful, very few people were willing to cultivate sword Tao. This was because the progress was too slow and it was extremely easy to be trapped in a realm for a long time without being able to break through. To be able to achieve astonishing attainments in sword Tao, not only did one need to have patience and perseverance to endure the lonely years, one also needed to have excellent perception to understand sword intent, sword force, and other very elusive things. It was also because of this that the Eight Extremities Sword sect had always been closed off to the outside world and did not allow disciples to easily go out. There were only a few hundred Eight Extremities Sword sect cultivators in the huge Eight Extremities continent. How could it not seem desolate? The Eight Extremities continent's interstellar teleportation array was still there. After all, when the Eight Extremities Sword sect cultivators went out, they also had to take the teleportation array. However, there was a sword sect elder who had already passed 6 tribulations guarding the teleportation array. If an unrelated cultivator was teleported here, they would be asked to leave by him. The Eight Extremities Sword sect had not received guests for hundreds of years. However, today, they had received 2 guests that they had to greet. They were Bingjia and Liu. The Eight Extremities Sword sect could refuse ordinary cultivators, but they were not arrogant enough to ask a Nine Tribulations expert to leave. "Fellow Taoists, may I know the reason for your visit?" After the two of them walked out of the teleportation array, the Six Tribulations Sword Sect elder asked politely. "We would like to see your sect master," Liu replied indifferently. "The sect master's cultivation area is 15 million kilometers southeast from here. Fellow Taoists, you can go there by yourselves." After the Six Tribulations elder responded, he returned to his original place and closed his eyes to meditate. He had no intention of leading the way for the two of them. Gingjia and Liu knew the temper of sword cultivators, so they did not care about anything and immediately flew southeast. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the two Nine Tribulations experts stopped at the entrance of a valley. Chapter 206. The Sword Pool was the place where the sect masters of the Eight Poles Sword Sect cultivated. Only the sect masters were qualified to enter. Other sect masters, even Ninth Tribulation experts, had no right to enter. At the entrance of the valley, the two Ninth Tribulation experts came to the side of the boulder with strange looks on their faces. The boulder was about 300 feet high and no less than 100 feet wide. It looked more like a small stone mountain. What attracted the two Ninth Tribulation experts was not the boulder itself, but the two bold words engraved on the boulder. Sword Pool. These two words could be said to be written in a flamboyant and vigorous manner. Just by looking at it, it gave people a feeling of being deeply immersed in it. Of course, if a mortal came here, he would naturally not be able to see the slightest secret. The higher the cultivation of the cultivator, the more he would feel that there was a lot of meaning behind these two words. For the top existences of the cultivation world like the Nine Tribulations, when they looked at these two words, they felt that it seemed to contain the truth of the universe of thousands of worlds. It was as unfathomable as the vast sea of stars. After staring at it for a while longer, the two Ninth Tribulation experts suddenly felt that there were countless incomparably sharp sword lights coming at them. It seemed that if they stayed where they were for even a moment longer, they would be crushed into pieces by these sword lights. Therefore, Liu and Gingjia both subconsciously flew back after exclaiming in surprise. Although in fact, there was no sword light coming at them, the two Ninth Tribulation experts each spat out a mouthful of blood after stabilizing their bodies. They looked like they had suffered a great setback. The two did not suffer much damage. It was just that their minds were in a mess just now, so it only took them a moment to recover. Gingjia exclaimed, "The senior who carved these two words has a very deep realm. It was probably carved by an ancient sword expert before the realms were divided." Liu nodded and said, "Two fellow Taoists have come from afar. Please forgive me for not coming out to greet you." At this moment, an old man in a wrinkled gray robe walked out of the valley. After waving his fist, he greeted them with a smile. Being able to walk out of the sword pool, the identity of this old man was obvious. He was the sect master of the Eight Poles Sword Sect. "Fellow Taoist, you're too polite." Liu and Gingjia immediately regained their normal expressions and responded politely. "Fellow Taoists, you've come to my Eight Poles Sword Sect. This is a remote and desolate place, so we don't have much to offer you." The Sword Sect's master walked over to them and spoke courteously, yet he didn't intend to invite them into the sword pool. Only the Sword sect master could enter the sword pool. Even the experts of the Sword Sect couldn't enter, let alone people from other sections. Right after he finished speaking, the Sword Sect leader waved his sleeve, and a stone table and 3 stone stools appeared before the 3 of them. The cultivators of the Eight Extremes Sword Sect had always been bitterly cultivating. Moreover, there were no outsiders in the Eight Extremes continent, so they didn't need to build any immortal caves, nor did they have any rooms to entertain guests. "Fellow Taoists, please take a seat." As the Sword Sect master spoke, he brought out a pot of fragrant tea and a few jade teacups. After the tea was filled, the Sword Sect's master asked, "Fellow Taoists, may I know why you've come from afar?" Gingjia took the teacup and spoke first. "Fellow Taoist should know about the matter between the Tai Immoral Sect and the Black Blood Demon, right?" The Sword Sect's master nodded and smiled. Although I lock myself in the sword pool every day, I still know a little about such a big matter. Liu took a sip of tea and asked, then fellow Taoist should also know about Shaolin Yu, right? The sword sex master touched the teacup with his finger and said with a calm expression, I know a little about her. We came here to talk about this Shaolin Yu. You two fellow Taoists can't be thinking of involving my 8-pole sword sect in the dispute between you two, right? You all know that our 8-pole sword sect rarely interferes with the matters of the cultivation world, and we don't want to cause any unnecessary trouble. The sword sex master didn't wait for Liu to finish speaking and continued with a smile. Fellow Taoist, you're wrong. This time, the two of us came to ask the 8-pole sword sect to help us take revenge. This matter is related to your sword sect. Liu narrowed his eyes and said. Oh? I'd like to hear the details. The sword sex master spoke with slight surprise. He didn't understand how this matter could be related to the 8-pole sword sect. Fellow Taoist and the experts of the sword sect rarely travel to the cultivation world, so you probably don't know that Shaolin Yu carries an ancient divine sword. Cultivators of our sword sect aren't very interested in the treasures of others, and it's the same even if it's a divine sword. The sword sex master continued. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to be impatient. Let me finish. Liu shook his head and said, that divine sword is called Merciless. What? The sword sex master immediately stood up when he heard this, and his expression changed drastically as he asked with disbelief, Fellow Taoist, are you really sure that his divine sword is merciless? Liu was very satisfied with the sword sex master's reaction and answered indifferently, how could I dare speak rashly about such a big matter? If it really is merciless, then it really is related to my sword sect. After the sword sex master sat down, his expression seemed to be slightly complicated while his eyes flickered slightly. He was probably scheming something in his heart. After pondering deeply for a moment, the sword sex master's expression returned to normal, and he said, since both of you have come to inform me of this, then I presume you're aware that Merciless is a divine artifact from the ancient times. Moreover, it was personally created by the founding ancestor of my sword sect. Fundamentally speaking, Merciless belongs to my 8-pole sword sect, so we ought to take it back. Of course. Gengjian nodded in agreement. However, both of you have rather deep enmity with Shaolin Yu, so it just so happens that we can cooperate this time. I presume both of you don't have any objections, right? The sword sex master spoke indifferently. Once it's done, Merciless will belong to the 8-pole sword sect, and that kid's other treasures will belong to both of us. Liu replied in an extremely direct manner. Aside from Merciless, our 8-pole sword sect won't be greedy for anything else. The sword sex master finished his cup of tea in one gulp. Shaolin Yu, who was rushing towards the chaotic astral ocean at full speed, didn't know that after he'd successively destroyed 2 top-rate clans of the cultivation world, he'd become the target of the only remaining top-rate sect. There were only a few decades left before he ascended, so Shaolin Yu didn't want to waste a single second. On a cultivation continent that was relatively close to the chaotic astral ocean, Shaolin Yu had just used the tracking spirit mirror when the space beside him suddenly fluctuated, and then a young cultivator appeared by his side. A short moment later, space fluctuated once more, and an obedient little girl appeared. It's you! Shaolin Yu immediately exclaimed when he saw the little girl because he recognized her. This little girl was the one who'd appeared on the Feiyu continent and claimed to be Jiang Lanyua's younger sister. She could be considered to have helped Shaolin Yu in the past. If it's not me, then who is it? The little girl replied unhappily. You two know each other? The young cultivator frowned and asked the little girl. We know each other, but we're not very close. The little girl first replied to the young cultivator, then said to Shaolin Yu, it's been so many years, but you haven't improved much. At this rate, when will you be able to go to the God Realm? Shaolin Yu suddenly felt a headache coming on. His rate of improvement could be said to be extremely rare in the cultivation world, but he still couldn't satisfy this little girl. However, when he thought of the fact that the other party was from the immortal realm, he didn't try to explain himself, and he wouldn't fuss about it in his heart. He should have cultivated for less than 1,000 years, and he's cultivating the primal chaos energy. It's already considered very fast for him to have such achievements. Xiaoling Yu was very satisfied with the young cultivator's reply. However, the young cultivator continued, it's originally a great opportunity for him to cultivate the primal chaos energy. However, his primal chaos energy has been demonized, and he's not on the right path. I'm afraid something will happen to him sooner or later. It's already not easy for him to go to the immortal world, so it's almost impossible for him to ascend to the god realm. This sentence made Xiaoling Yu's mood, which had improved slightly, fall again. Xiaoling Yu still didn't say anything because he was trying to assess the situation. These two people had appeared in front of him one after the other. It was too sudden and strange, so he had to be careful. First of all, Xiaoling Yu thought that this young cultivator might also be from the god realm. This was because he couldn't see his cultivation level at all, and he couldn't even catch a trace of his aura. Even though he was very worried, Xiaoling Yu didn't think of running away quickly. This was because he had no chance of escaping in front of this young cultivator. The difference in their strength was too great. Hey! Why are you looking for him? The little girl asked the young cultivator. Since you're not very familiar with him, why I'm looking for him has nothing to do with you. After the young cultivator replied, his eyes shone. With just a glance, his face darkened, and he shouted, my master's treasure was really stolen by you. How dare you? After shouting, the young cultivator's aura surged out and instantly sealed off a large area of the surrounding space. However, what the young cultivator didn't expect was that just as his aura sealed off the space, the little girl beside him wrinkled her nose and shouted. The originally sealed space returned to normal. The young cultivator was about to flash to Xiaoling Yu's side, but before he could do so, the little girl was already standing beside Xiaoling Yu. She even stretched out a jade-like finger and asked, what are you trying to do? This has nothing to do with you. You'd better get out of the way. The young cultivator refused to back down. I said it has something to do with me. If you don't explain it clearly, I won't let you touch him. The little girl stood in front of Xiaoling Yu and looked like she was going to stand up for her master. To tell you the truth, I came to the lower realm this time on the orders of my master to retrieve his treasure. That treasure is currently in this brat's sea of consciousness. The young cultivator said with a heavy face. Your master must be an old monster at the top of the god realm. How could he leave his treasure in the cultivation world? Don't tell me you see that he has a treasure on him and want to rob him? The little girl said unconvinced. Humph. I won't lie. If you don't get out of the way, don't blame me for being impolite. The young cultivator said a little anxiously. I haven't fought for many years. If I'm afraid of you, I'm not your grandaunt. Do you think you can beat me? The little girl laughed fearlessly. Chapter 207. Great Yang Sword? Your old monster Dubu's disciple? The little girl frowned slightly, seeming a little surprised. Since you know my master, you should also know the power of the Great Yang Sword. I advise you to get out of the way quickly, lest you fall under this sacred sword at such a young age. The young cultivator said proudly. You're really lucky. It's said that old monster Dubu never accepts disciples, but he actually took a liking to you. However, no matter how powerful the Great Yang Sword is, you still have to be able to use its magical powers. The little girl first commented, but then she still didn't show any signs of fear. Then you can give it a try. As the young cultivator spoke, that simple and unadorned sword actually trembled slightly in his hand. A clear and melodious sword sound suddenly rang out, and the runes on the sword also started to circulate like a charm, gradually becoming brighter and brighter. There's actually some skill. The little girl exclaimed in surprise, then transmitted a message to Xiaoling Yu. I'll block him, you go first. With your cultivation level, you're about to ascend to the immortal realm. It's best if you don't get blocked by this guy before you ascend. Then you be careful. Xiaoling Yu knew that a battle of this level was simply not something she could come into contact with. She didn't even have the qualifications to watch the battle, so after reminding her, she directly turned around and left. "Thief, don't you dare leave." Seeing that Xiaolingyu was about to leave, the young cultivator raised his sword and was about to rush over. Unfortunately, the little girl blocked his path. "Your opponent now is me. If you defeat me, it won't be too late for you to find him." As the little girl spoke, she took out a slender sword and continued, "Actually, I also practice the sword. Since I've met old Monster Dugu's disciple today, I naturally have to learn from him properly." "You also practice the sword?" The young cultivator was a little surprised. Why, could it be that only old Monster Dugu and his disciple are allowed to practice the sword, and others are not allowed to practice the sword? The little girl said, unconvinced. "Alright, since we're on the same side of the sword, then I'll exchange a few moves with you," the young cultivator said, full of fighting spirit. While the two people from the realm of the gods were sparring with their sword techniques, Xiaolingyu teleported dozens of times before stopping. He didn't dare to go to the Chaos Star Sea again because teleportation arrays couldn't be used there. That person from the divine world's divine sense could probably cover the entire Chaos Star Sea with a thought. There was no way he could escape. After teleporting continuously for more than 3 months, Xiaolingyu was already far away from the chaotic Star Sea before he dared to stop. "I don't know if that little girl can win. If she loses, that expert from the divine realm will find me again very quickly," Xiaolingyu thought gloomily. Apart from ascending to the celestial world, there was almost no other way out for her. However, she still had a few decades before she could ascend to the celestial world. While Xiaolingyu was worried sick, she received a message from Anya. After using her consciousness to scan the communication spiritual pearl, Xiaolingyu's eyes shone with a cold light. She snorted and said, "They actually dared to come and find me. This is good. I don't have to go and find them. The Eight Poles Sword sect wants to come too. They probably want to follow in the footsteps of the Tai Immortal sect and the Black Blood Demon. 2 of the 3 old top clans have already been destroyed. I don't mind letting all the old top clans fall." With that thought, Xiaolingyu teleported dozens of times before flying into space. He found an uninhabited planet and sat cross-legged on a barren mountain peak, quietly waiting for Gingjia, Liu, and the experts from the Eight Poles Sword sect to arrive. Xiaolingyu didn't have to wait too long. Liu, who had a way to track Xiaolingyu, had already brought Gingjia and the experts from the Eight Poles Sword sect to this nameless planet half a month later. Xiaolingyu, who was meditating on the mountain peak, suddenly opened her eyes and stood up. She squinted her eyes and looked at the figures in front of her who were flying over at an extremely fast speed. There were quite a lot of people, exactly 10 of them. Except for Gingjia and Liu, the other 8 were all experts from the Eight Poles Sword sect. I can understand why these 2 old fellows have come here. What I don't understand is that I have never interacted with your Eight Poles Sword sect, nor do I have any enmity with you. Why have you come here with such a large force? Xiaolingyu asked with a flat expression. Our Eight Poles Sword sect also has no intention of becoming enemies with you. However, the divine sword behind you is something left behind by the ancestors of our Eight Poles Sword sect. If you can return it, we will immediately return to the Eight Extremities continent. The chief of the Eight Poles Sword sect took 2 steps forward, saying with a helpless look on his face. "Ha, you said that this merciless divine sword belongs to your Eight Poles Sword sect. Is it yours? Call it and see if it will answer you," Xiaolingyu said with a laugh. "Since you are unwilling to return it, we can only take it back by force," the sect master of the Eight Poles Sword sect said in a deep voice. "So many of you have come, isn't it to snatch it by force? However, I have to remind you that although this divine sword is a treasure, it is not something that anyone can snatch. How glorious was the Tai Immortal sect and the Black Blood Demon in the past. What are they like now?" Xiaolingyu shook her head and smiled, saying with a strange tone. "It's useless to say more. Let's do it." Liu seemed to be very impatient. He immediately took out his heaven-covering demonic banner, and the demonic dragon flew above his head. Gingjia shouted, and several short knives flew out one after another, overflowing with cold light. The 8 experts of the 8 poles sword sect quickly spread out, standing in 8 directions around Shaolin Yu. It seemed that they were going to set up a sword formation. Ha! The 8 poles sword formation? I heard that it is very powerful. I have the honor to see it today. Shaolin Yu had figured out the methods of Gingjia and Liu. These 2 ninth tribulation experts could not pose any threat to him. He was more concerned about the sword formation formed by the 8 experts of the 8 poles sword sect. The 8 poles sword formation was very famous in the cultivation world. It was one of the few formations in the cultivation world that could kill a ninth tribulation expert. The 8 poles sword sect station did not have any formations or restrictions to protect it. Once they encountered a strong enemy, they would form the 8 poles sword formation to defend against the enemy. The power of the 8 poles sword formation was definitely not inferior to the 9 palace glaze fairy formation of the Tai Immortal sect and the blood nightmare demonic formation of the black blood demon. It was even much stronger in terms of attack power. The experts of the 8 poles sword sect dared to come because they were very confident in the 8 poles sword formation. However, not to mention the experts of the 8 poles sword sect, even Gingjia and Liu did not know what level Shaolin Yu was at now. This was because they were not present when Shaolin Yu destroyed the black blood demon. If Gingjia and Liu were present at that time, it was unknown if they would have the courage to appear in front of Shaolin Yu again. Linger was also in front of Shaolin Yu. She did not speak and only stared coldly at the other party. Shaolin Yu had only heard of the 8 poles sword formation but had never seen it before. Therefore, to be safe, he released the puppet, the serpent devourer of heaven, and the icy soul heavenly silkworm. This time, not only did he want to defeat the other party, Shaolin Yu did not want to let Gingjia and Liu leave alive again. The 8 experts of the 8 poles sword sect were all above the 6th tribulation level. Moreover, the strength of their experts could not be judged by the number of heavenly tribulations they had passed. Even a 7th tribulation sword Dao itinerant immortal could directly challenge an 8th or 9th tribulation expert if their understanding of the sword Dao reached a higher level. The 2 8th tribulation experts among them had the strength to face a 9th tribulation expert alone. In addition, they had the support of the sword formation at this time. Their combat strength was undoubtedly beyond the scope of the cultivation world. If a 9th tribulation expert was trapped in the sword formation, he would lose a layer of skin even if he did not die. In a while, you guys are in charge of leaving Gingjia and Liu behind. I will deal with this sword formation. Just as Shaolin Yu said this, the 8 experts of the 8 poles sword sect had all taken out their swords. What was surprising was that the 8 swords were all immortal weapons. Moreover, there was a supreme grade immortal sword and 3 superior grade immortal swords among them. The 8 poles sword sect had been passed down since ancient times. Although it had been developing in a low-key manner, the sect's collection was still quite astonishing. After the sword sect master shouted, the 8 immortal swords let out a heaven-shaking sword cry at the same time, constantly releasing sharp sword light. Immediately, the surroundings were completely enveloped by sword light, as if there were only swords in the entire world. The sword intent and sword force that caused one's heart to turn cold surged endlessly like raging waves, causing the entire space to boil. However, the space around Shaolin Yu was completely unaffected. The aura he released could barely stabilize everything around him. I'll send you guys out of the sword formation first. You must leave those 2 despicable old fellows behind or directly kill them. It was also because the strength of the serpent devourer of heaven had advanced by leaps and bounds, and Linger was loyal to him that he was so confident. Before the sword formation could begin its attack, Shaolin Yu's 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs had already been activated, attacking the 6 experts of the sword sect at the same time. The 8 poles sword formation was also activated at this moment, but it split into countless sword lights to block the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs, while Shaolin Yu blasted a mutated chaotic seal towards a certain direction. The power of the 8 poles sword formation was attracted by the demon-suppressing immortal orb, and the mutated chaotic seal's attack power was incomparably powerful, so it naturally blasted open a path without any sword light. The serpent, icy soul heavenly silkworm, Ling and the puppet took the opportunity to rush out. Xiaoling Yu could actually rush out as well, but he still wanted to experience the power of the 8 poles sword formation in the sword formation. Of course, the reason why he did this was because he was confident that he would definitely not be heavily injured in the sword formation. Seeing that Xiaoling Yu's assistant had come out and was staring at the two of them with an unfriendly expression, Dingjia and Li Yu's expressions turned gloomy. Especially after sensing the aura of the serpent devourer of heaven, they realized the seriousness of the problem. We just need to defend with all our might and hold them back for a while. Once the 8 poles sword sect takes care of that brat, these existences are nothing to be afraid of. Liu narrowed his eyes and looked around, then sent a voice transmission to Gingjia. Although Gengjia's heart was filled with fear and regret, he had no choice but to continue down this path. Xiaoling Yu, who was in the formation, had already begun to receive the baptism of the 8 poles sword formation. Countless sharp sword lights fell like a storm, and the attack of each sword light was not weaker than the attack of a high-grade immoral artifact. Chapter 208. The 8 sword sect experts in charge of the sword formation seemed to have realized that such an attack had no effect on Xiaoling Yu. In less than 20 breaths of time, they changed their moves. The sword lights that were originally surrounding Xiaoling Yu all dispersed and then gathered in 8 directions, turning into 8 divine beasts. A dragon, a tiger, a phoenix, a vermilion bird, a black tortoise. As soon as the 8 divine beasts finished condensing, they all pounced towards Xiaoling Yu at the same time. When they were about to reach Xiaoling Yu, they turned into light swords at the same time, either slashing, slicing, or chopping. This is interesting. Xiaoling Yu smiled slightly. The 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs met the 6 light swords respectively, while his fists punched out at the same time to meet the remaining 2 light swords. After a rumbling explosion, the 8 menacing light swords all turned into sword lights that filled the sky and dissipated on the spot. The 6 demon-suppressing immoral orbs flew back, but their brilliance was a little dim, as if they had consumed a lot of energy. Xiaoling Yu also felt pain coming from his 2 fists, but he said indifferently, "This level of attainment seems to be a little lacking. Is there anything more powerful?" The other party did not use any more powerful moves. Instead, they continuously gathered divine beasts and turned them into light swords, as if they wanted to exhaust Xiaoling Yu's strength. Xiaoling Yu also took out the golden shield of broken horn. He used the primal chaos seal to block it, but he was not injured at all. "You want to compete with me in terms of consumption? Then let's see who can take it." The other party had been attacking repeatedly, and Xiaoling Yu could guess their intentions. However, he did not pay too much attention to it, because he did not believe that the 8 sword sect experts would not consume a lot of energy to maintain such a powerful sword formation. Xiaoling Yu had not even used up half of his strength, but the other party had already taken the initiative to change their strategy. Xiaoling Yu could guess that the other party would not be able to hold on for long. Just as the other party was about to change their move, Xiaoling Yu consecutively struck out 3 mutated primal chaos seals, fiercely blasting towards the same spot. After 3 explosions, one of the sword sect's experts who were in charge of the sword formation was sent flying, and 3 arrows of blood sprayed from his mouth. Fortunately, the immortal sword circling above this sword sect expert's head only dimmed greatly in immortal light, and it couldn't help but tremble. It didn't suffer much of a heavy blow. That sword sect expert didn't wipe off the blood at the corner of his mouth. He immediately returned to his original position and spat out a mouthful of blood essence onto the immortal sword. Then, he used a few seals to reinforce it. Only then did the immortal sword stabilize and shine once more. However, because of this sword sect expert's sudden change, the sword move that was about to be completed could not be executed. Xiaoling Yu took the opportunity to bombard the same place 3 more times. Fortunately, the person guarding that place was a top expert like the sword sect master. Moreover, he was also protected by a top-grade immortal sword. Xiaoling Yu's attack this time didn't have much effect. Xiaoling Yu was in the middle of the sword formation. In addition to defending, he also had the ability to launch a rather threatening counterattack. This made the experts of the Baji sword sect realize how powerful Shaolin Yu was. They knew that this mission would not be as easy to complete as they had imagined. At the same time, their expressions became much gloomier, and at the same time, they worked even harder to activate the sword formation. The Devourer of Heaven, who was fighting fiercely outside, suddenly saw a flash of light in front of his eyes. Then, he felt waves of sharp sword intent soar into the sky. The vast and mighty power actually made his heart tremble, and his movements became much longer at this moment. The Devourer of Heaven first stopped his attack and looked to the side, and his heart trembled. At this moment, within a radius of hundreds of miles covered by the sword formation, there were 8 immortal swords suspended in mid-air. Each of them shone with a dazzling cold light, and the waves of sword intent were radiating from them. After a short moment, numerous rays of sword light that were like dazzling white pillars of light pierced through the sky and shot towards the depths of the sky before converging at a single point. After that, an even more dazzling and imposing sword of light slowly took form, and it emanated waves of sword intent that carried an aura of destruction. As soon as the light sword formed, it fell rapidly toward the sword formation. The tip of the light sword was aimed at Shaolin Yu's head, and it was using the sword formation to firmly lock onto Shaolin Yu. The power of this light sword was already a little stronger than ordinary supreme-grade immortal treasures. If it hit Shaolin Yu without any hindrance, his body would definitely be split into 2 on the spot. The 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs whizzed out under Shaolin Yu's control. As supreme-grade immortal treasures, they shattered the tip of the light sword. The offensive power of the blade and hilt of the light sword was actually not inferior to the tip of the sword at all. Shaolin Yu did not have time to control the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs to return, and could only use the golden horn shield to block above his head. The golden horn shield was also blasted away, and only the hilt of the light sword was left. Shaolin Yu used the mutated chaotic seal to receive it. Shaolin Yu blocked the attack of this light sword with ease. After all, he had reached the peak of the chaotic convergence stage. Even in the immortal world, he could be considered a minor expert, and his level was far beyond that of the 9 tribulations cultivators in the cultivation world. However, the experts of the 8 Poles sword sect knew that Shaolin Yu was very strong, but they still dared to come. Naturally, they had something to rely on. Their 8 Poles sword formation could not only kill a 9 tribulations, but as long as the opponent's strength was not far beyond that of a 9 tribulations, even if they could not kill him, they could still severely injure him. After the first light sword fell, one after another light sword fell, and Shaolin Yu gradually found it difficult to resist. The experts of the 8 Poles sword sect had something to rely on. Since Shaolin Yu dared to wait here for them and still dared to stay in the sword formation, he naturally had complete confidence. After the frenzied attacks of the sword formation continued for a while, Shaolin Yu could no longer resist with the help of the 6 demon-suppressing immortal orbs and the golden horn shield. He held the unforgivable godly sword in his hand. With a thought, the demon-suppressing immortal orbs and the golden horn shield flew back and circled around Shaolin Yu's body, while he pointed the unforgivable godly sword above his head. The light swords released by the 8 Poles sword formation fiercely slammed into the unforgivable godly sword. Instantly, the sword was enveloped in sword light, and countless sword lights rapidly passed through the unforgivable godly sword and landed on Shaolin Yu. However, the sword intent in the sword lights had already been digested by the sword intent circulating in the unforgivable godly sword. These sword lights alone could not hurt Shaolin Yu at all. No matter how the light sword with the destruction sword essence continued to fall, it was unable to do anything to Shaolin Yu. Shaolin Yu did not know how to use a sword, but he only needed to raise the unforgivable godly sword high up. The unforgivable godly sword's automatic display of might on that strange planet last time had given Shaolin Yu some inspiration. After destroying the black blood demon, he took some time to study the unforgivable godly sword. He had benefited greatly. However, studying the unforgivable godly sword did not give Shaolin Yu any comprehension of the way of the sword, and he did not research in that direction. When the sword sect master saw this, he felt even more depressed. He could not help but feel a little regretful that he had not carefully investigated the other party's strength before coming here. However, although sword cultivators were very arrogant, a godly sword, especially one that was extremely famous in ancient times like the unforgivable godly sword, was really too tempting for them. Even if the unforgivable godly sword had not been personally forged by the sword sect's founder, the Eight-Pole Sword sect would probably send all their experts to fight for it after learning of its whereabouts. In the hands of others, the unforgivable godly sword would only cause trouble. It could not be refined at all. However, in the hands of a true high-level sword cultivator, it was completely different. Not to mention refining it, even feeling and comprehending the sword intent in a day and night was a good thing. The Eight-Pole Sword formation's current power was already the peak that sword sect experts in the cultivation world could reach. Originally, this was enough for the Eight-Pole Sword sect to protect themselves and at least be in an invincible position in the cultivation world. However, now it seemed that this power alone was not enough to destroy the other party. Over the countless years, there had been many changes in the top sects of the immortal cultivation world and the devil cultivation world, but only the Eight-Pole Sword sect had always represented sword cultivators. Since the founding of the sect until now, it had never declined. This was because the Eight-Pole Sword formation could kill a Nine Tribulations expert and also severely injure an expert who was one realm higher than a Nine Tribulations expert. In fact, if it were not for the unforgivable godly sword, even if Shaolin Yu was not destroyed by the Eight-Pole Sword formation, he would have been severely injured. The light swords were still gathering in the sky and then falling, but Shaolin Yu's body was still standing straight. After thinking for a while, the sword sect leader made up his mind and shouted, "Everyone, use the limitless style to kill this boy." The limitless style was the most powerful move of the Eight-Pole Sword formation. Its power depended on the strength of the sword cultivator controlling the sword formation and the quality of the immortal sword maintaining the sword formation. Now, if the Eight-Pole Sword formation successfully activated the limitless style, the sword formation would be able to release an attack that was 10 times more powerful than the destructive light swords. Although the limitless style was powerful, it was not easy to activate. An attack that was 10 times more powerful than the destructive light swords required the support of 10 times more energy. It also required the expert controlling the sword formation to have a stronger control ability. At this moment, the situation could not be delayed. The experts of the sword sect and the sword sect leader did not have the time to think too much. Although they had never used the limitless style during practice before, they had to give it a try today. Under the lead of the sword sect leader, the experts of the sword sect began to change their seals. The 8 immortal swords that were originally standing in midair rose horizontally and then chased after each other as they spun rapidly. In an instant, the 8 rapidly moving immortal swords formed a circle. As they rose into the sky, they continued to shrink. In just 5 or 6 breaths of time, the circle of light actually condensed into a point. In the end, it flashed and disappeared without a trace. The 8 experts of the sword sect had solemn expressions, but the seals on their hands never stopped. The sword origin energy in their bodies surged out crazily like a flood, causing their auras to continuously rise. However, their bodies became more and more empty. Limitless style, heaven and earth change. Suddenly, the sword sect's master let out an explosive shout, and it was like a thunderclap had exploded in the sky. After that, the heavens and the earth actually dimmed as a brilliant ray of sword light shot over from the 9 heavens, yet it vanished without a trace with a flash. In the next moment, the bright sword light appeared once again, but it was already less than 300 meters away from Shaolin Yu. Sword chi rushed towards his face, the sword momentum sealed the sky, the sword intent chilling to the bones. Almost subconsciously, Shaolin Yu used the unforgivable divine sword to slash in front of him. Then, a bright light flashed in front of his eyes, and the sword light actually disappeared 300 meters away. However, he felt a strange stabbing pain between his brows. Chapter 209. However, Shaolin Yu's soul was still in the chaotic demon nascent soul and not in his sea of consciousness. After the infinite style attack from the 8 extreme sword formation entered his sea of consciousness, it directly pounced on the grayish-black iron piece. What was surprising was that the iron piece only trembled slightly before this extremely fierce attack was eliminated. Other than causing Xiaoling Yu to be shocked and his body to tremble just now, it did not cause any other effect. After a short period of time, the metal piece in Xiaoling Yu's sea of consciousness actually reflected the limitless style back. The 8 sword sect experts were caught off guard, and all of them spat out blood as they flew back, their bodies floating in the air like broken leaves. After Xiaoling Yu came back to his senses and checked, he could not help but be shocked because the 8 masters of the 8 extreme sword sect had all died on the spot under the counterattack of the iron piece. There was no need for Xiaoling Yu to go to the 8 extremes continent to take revenge. These 8 top masters of the 8 extreme sword sect all died here, causing the overall strength of the 8 extreme sword sect to plummet. After this news spread out, it would not be long before the 8 extreme sword sect was removed from the cultivation world. After the 8 masters of the sword sect died, the immortal swords they brought all fell from the sky. Their color was extremely dim, and Xiaoling Yu unceremoniously put them all away. Although it was a lucky victory, Xiaoling Yu was still afraid. If it were not for the grayish-black iron piece's help at the critical moment, he would not have had a good time facing the 8 extreme sword formation this time. On the other battlefield, Liu and Dingjia had been paying attention to the battle here. With the two of them working together, they were able to block the attacks of the 4 powerful characters, including the Serpent Devourer of Heaven. Originally, the two of them thought that the 8 extreme sword formation would definitely be able to kill Xiaoling Yu, but the result disappointed them. As soon as the 8 extreme sword formation was broken, Liu and Dingjia were already prepared to escape. The two of them knew that the current situation was extremely dangerous, so they made a prompt decision and threw out their proud magic treasures, preparing to make them explode to buy themselves time to escape. However, their wishful thinking failed. When they were about to detonate their magic treasures, the Serpent Devourer of Heaven activated its innate magical power and completely sealed off a large area of space around them. They could no longer move, and their magic treasures were naturally imprisoned on the spot. Xiaoling Yu flashed over and said to the serpent, "Well done. Stop the magical power first. They can't escape this time." The Serpent Devourer of Heaven immediately stopped the magical power, and Dingjia and Liu slowly regained their freedom. However, their eyes were filled with despair, because their speed was far inferior to Xiaoling Yu's. There was no possibility of escape at all. Xiaoling Yu did not hesitate. Just as the serpent stopped the magical power, he quickly made his move. He placed 2 palms on the shoulders of the two of them, and then used the power of chaos to imprison their cultivation. As for Liu's demonic dragon, it had long been torn into pieces by the Serpent Devourer of Heaven. Even Liu's demonic banner was almost torn into rags by the Serpent Devourer of Heaven's dragon claws. "You've been chasing me for so many years. Have you ever thought that this day would come?" Xiaoling Yu asked calmly. "Now that things have come to this, the winner takes all. We're meat on the chopping block, and you're the knife. It's too late to say anything. If you want to kill us, then kill us. Don't use those words to ridicule us," Liu said stubbornly. He knew that Xiaoling Yu would definitely not let the two of them go. "Little brother, you see, we don't actually have a deep grudge. Why don't you let me go? I'll definitely repay you in the future." Dingjia seemed to cherish his life. Even under such circumstances, he did not completely despair. "Repay you? I'm afraid that you won't be able to repay me. Who knows, in a few days, you might bring other experts to seek revenge." Xiaoling Yu sneered. He despised people like Dingjia from the bottom of his heart, and felt that Liu had more backbone. "Brother Dingjia, are you still hoping that he'll let us go?" Liu snorted and asked. "Liu, during the battle near Earth, do you know who moved some of the people on Earth?" Xiaoling Yu asked calmly. "Why should I tell you?" "Even if I tell you, you won't let me go," Liu snorted and said. "Indeed, even if you tell me, I won't let you go. However, if you don't tell me, I won't let you die so easily," Xiaoling Yu said threateningly. Hearing this, Liu's expression changed. As a demonic cultivator, he knew many ways to make people beg for death. Ordinary cultivators more or less knew a little, such as using true fire to burn the other party's soul. I don't know who moved them, but I don't think it was a cultivator who did it. It should be some kind of hidden ancient formation that exists on Earth. If there was a powerhouse on Earth who could move between galaxies, I'm afraid I wouldn't be standing in front of you now. Liu pondered for a while and explained. Then did you see clearly at that time that only the young people were moved? Xiaoling asked again. I was fighting with my life at that time, how could I have the time to see that? Liu said indifferently. Then you can go now. As Xiaoling said this, the primal chaos true fire gushed out from his palm. In an instant, the two top powerhouses of the cultivation world were turned into ashes. Not even their nascent souls and primordial spirits were spared. Being merciful to one's enemy was being cruel to oneself. Back on Earth, Xiaoling understood this point. Liu was killed, and Xiaoling could be considered to have avenged the innocent people who died on Earth. He also avenged his parents, which made him feel a little more relaxed. Although Liu couldn't prove that only the young people were moved, it was almost the truth. In the end, after killing Liu and Gingjia, Xiaoling first teleported away from this uninhabited planet, then found a place to rest for a while before sending a message to Anya. Originally, Xiaoling didn't want to go to the chaotic astral sea again. He only wanted to meet Anya again before he ascended, but Anya said that she couldn't leave now and asked Xiaoling to go over. Although he was a little worried that the young God Realm powerhouse would come looking for trouble with him, Xiaoling still teleported to the chaotic astral sea. After all, if that young God Realm powerhouse really came back, he wouldn't be able to hide for a few decades no matter where he went. Xiaoling could imagine that the metal piece in his mind was definitely not simple if it was a treasure that even a top powerhouse in the God Realm coveted. In addition, the metal piece had saved him before, so he naturally didn't want to give it to that young God Realm cultivator. Moreover, even if he wanted to give the metal piece away, he had to find a way to control it first. For some reason, the metal piece stayed in Xiaoling's mind and he couldn't move it at all. If that young God Realm cultivator wanted to take the metal piece away, he would have to kill Xiaoling first. When he thought about this, Xiaoling was very grateful to the little girl who claimed to be Jianglan Yu's sister. However, he was even more confused. He didn't understand why this little girl would take such good care of him. Was it because he knew her sister? He couldn't figure it out, but he didn't think too much about it. After teleporting continuously for more than a month, he finally arrived at the chaotic astral sea again. There was no teleportation formation that led directly to the chaotic astral sea, so he had to travel across the galaxy again. Xiaoling was very nervous throughout the entire teleportation. He was afraid that the God Realm powerhouse would come after him. However, the danger he imagined did not appear. Even the starry sky of the chaotic astral sea was very peaceful. The Langhuang continent was no different from before. The Cloud Mist Tower in South Chiu City was also covered by clouds as usual. It was still the same room. Anya still arrived before Xiaoling. However, the difference was that this room was not covered by clouds and mist, and there were no fragrant dishes on the table. Seeing Xiaoling appear with Linger, Anya, who was accompanied by Elder Sun, immediately stood up and said, I can't stay outside for too long. Come with me to the headquarters. It's good to chat here. Why do you have to go to the headquarters? I won't take up too much of your time. Xiaoling sat on the chair and refused to get up as he said tiredly. Why? You've single-handedly destroyed the top 3 cultivation families. Is there any place in the cultivation world that you don't dare to go? Anya asked Xiaoling with a smile. I'm not afraid. I just don't want to waste time. Besides, no matter how powerful the headquarters is, you have no reason to harm me. Why should I be afraid? Xiaoling said uninterestedly. Since you're not afraid, come with me. It's not like you'll lose 2 pounds of meat. Anya said as she walked out of the room. Xiaoling had no choice but to follow. The Shuntian League had always been mysterious. Xiaoling really did not want to have anything to do with such an organization. He felt that mysterious things often had a lot of power. After experiencing the power of the 8 extreme sword formation, Xiaolingyu knew that he was not invincible in the cultivation world. He did not want any accidents to happen when he was about to ascend to the immortal realm. If that happened, all his previous efforts would be in vain. Most importantly, Xiaolingyu had a good impression of the Shuntian League after talking with Yan Tianzi last time. The location of the Shuntian League's headquarters had always been very confidential. Even Ninth Tribulation experts like Gingjia and Liu might not know. Even the internal members of the Shuntian League were only aware of it. The headquarters of such a mysterious and powerful organization was now open to Xiaolingyu. However, he did not feel proud or happy as he walked. He only felt a little worried. The Shuntian League's headquarters was on the Langhuang continent. Xiaolingyu thought that it would be very hidden and difficult to find. He did not expect that the headquarters of the Shuntian League was actually an independent space that was not very big. The entrance of this independent space was not very remote. It was on the top of a barren mountain. When they reached the top of the mountain, Anya quickly made a set of hand seals and sent them into the void. After a wave of fluctuation, a space crack appeared. Chapter 210. It was no wonder that the headquarters of the Shuntian League had always been hard to find since they had their own independent space. We've always called this place the Shuntian Realm. Only the true core members of the Shuntian League can enter and leave freely. There are many restrictions and formations here, so you have to be careful and don't touch them. After passing through the spatial crack, Anya told Xiaolingyu solemnly, although you're very strong, there are many formations here that even we don't understand. If you walk around carelessly, you'll be trapped for a period of time. Of course, the main reason why I'm reminding you is that I don't want you to disturb the peace here. Is it very peaceful here? Xiaolingyu asked in a rhetorical tone. When he fully spread out his will, he was able to cover a large area. He could also feel that there were indeed layers of restrictions here. If he didn't have the correct route to guide him, ordinary cultivators would have died before they could even see a shadow of a person. However, although there were flowers, grass, trees, and pavilions everywhere, and it looked like a peaceful paradise, there were many cultivators shuttling back and forth, and they seemed to be very busy. It's just a special situation recently. In the past, this place was very peaceful. Anya continued with a very light tone, as if she was still brooding over Xiaolingyu's words last time. You can have special situations too. You've been hiding your strength for countless years. Are you preparing to rise in a high-profile manner? Well, now that the 3 top sects have been destroyed, the cultivation world is in turmoil. It's indeed a good opportunity to take advantage of the situation. Xiaolingyu continued to look around as he said in a strange tone. Oh? Could it be that in your eyes, our Shuntian League is the kind of organization that likes to seize benefits? Anya's expression didn't change. Don't tell me that you're still the same organization that pays attention to following the will of the heavens. Xiaolingyu immediately replied. His words stunned Anya and Elder Sun at the same time. They even stopped moving forward and looked at Xiaolingyu with a little surprise. Very few people in the cultivation world knew what the Shuntian League used to be and what kind of organization it was. To this day, even 90% of the Shuntian League members knew nothing about the Shuntian League's mission. Looks like you've done a lot of homework before coming here, Anya said as she regained her composure. Actually, that's all I know, Xiaolingyu said calmly. Xiaolingyu felt that this conversation was too boring. It was not a date at all, but in reality, he and Anya had already done it as husband and wife, but neither of them seemed to know how to be romantic. This made Xiaolingyu feel very uncomfortable, but she couldn't say it out loud. She could only use her emotionless face to express her silent resistance. You even know about this? I can't believe you don't know much, Anya said with a smile. You should trust me, Xiaolingyu said with a deep meaning. Anya raised her eyebrows slightly when she heard this. She didn't say anything else, as if she was thinking about the meaning of Xiaolingyu's words. After walking for about an hour, Anya stopped at the entrance of a small courtyard. In this short period of time, Xiaoling Yu had already seen no less than 1,000 cultivators. Moreover, these cultivators were not only from the human race, but also some experts from other races and the demon race. These cultivators all seemed to be in a hurry, but there was some excitement and nervousness on their faces, as if they were about to face a great challenge with great opportunities. From this, Xiaoling Yu could tell that the Shuntian League was about to make a big move. He had overthrown the 3 top sects in the cultivation world, causing undercurrents to surge in the cultivation world. This seemed to have given the Shuntian League a very good opportunity. Just as Xiaoling Yu was pondering, Anya knocked on the door of the small courtyard. An old man in a white robe with snow-white eyebrows that drooped down to his chest appeared. "Greetings, Mississippi." The old man first glanced at her, then cupped his fists and bowed respectfully. What Xiaoling Yu found strange was that this old man didn't greet Elder Sun, a 9th tribulation expert. Xiaoling Yu scanned the old man with his mind before realizing that this old man was also a 9th tribulation expert. Furthermore, he was slightly stronger than Elder Sun. Xiaoling Yu had already seen that the Shuntian League had 2 9th tribulation experts. This alone was enough to show disdain for all the big and small forces in the cultivation world. One had to know that even the top 3 sects only had 1 9th tribulation expert. "Elder Wang, is everything alright in the quiet room?" Anya didn't stand on ceremony and didn't forget to ask as she stepped into the courtyard. Xiaoling Yu followed her into the courtyard, but Elder Sun stood outside the door as if he didn't dare or had the right to enter. "Everything is fine. It won't be long before the league leader wakes up," Elder Wang replied calmly and amiably. The courtyard was not large. There was a small path paved with bluestones that led to the only 2-story stone building in the courtyard. Both sides of the path were planted with various spiritual flowers and herbs. This made the courtyard seem peaceful and comfortable. As long as one stepped into this courtyard, they would feel a sense of comfort in their body and mind. All their worries would seem to disappear before their eyes. The stone door of the stone building was tightly shut. After Elder Wang pushed the stone door open, he turned around and found a stone in the courtyard to squat down. He didn't ask about Xiaoling Yu at all. "What's your relationship with the league leader who is in seclusion?" The layout of the first floor of the stone building was very simple. There was only a long stone table and a circle of stone piers. Other than that, there was nothing else. Xiaoling Yu glanced at it and asked, "Didn't you find out?" Anya smiled faintly and asked as she walked towards the stone stairs at the back of the building. "Your Shuntian League is so tightly organized. Do you think it's possible for me to find out?" Xiaoling Yu didn't answer her question. "The league leader is my father. He went into seclusion before I was born and is only about to come out now," Anya said unhurriedly as she walked up the stairs. "Your father?" Although Xiaoling Yu guessed it, he still found it hard to believe. He already knew that Anya had an extraordinary status in the Shuntian League, but he didn't expect her to be the daughter of the Shuntian League's league leader. Many powerful cultivators in the cultivation world knew that the league leaders of the Shuntian League were all unfathomably powerful. Even Yen Tianzi didn't doubt this and seemed a little afraid. Xiaoling Yu didn't expect Anya to have such a powerful background. No wonder Elder Sun kept following her and Elder Wang was so polite. "What's wrong? Are you scared?" Anya stopped and turned around to ask as she stood at the door of the second floor. Xiaoling Yu didn't like people talking to him from above, so he walked to the door of the second floor before replying, "I'm not scared. I'm just a little nervous. After all, this is my first time meeting my father-in-law. You call him nice now, but my father may not agree to be your father-in-law," Anya said as she turned around. However, Xiaoling Yu caught the look of joy on her face. It turns out that she also likes to listen to nice things. Xiaoling Yu thought so in his heart and followed after her with a wry smile. There was no living room on the second floor, only a hallway and 2 secret rooms. One of the doors of the 2 secret rooms was protected by a very powerful restriction, while the other one didn't have the slightest bit of energy fluctuation. "My father is in seclusion in this secret room." Anya pointed at the secret room protected by restrictions and introduced it. Then she pushed open the stone door of the secret room without any defenses and said, "This is where I usually cultivate. Do you think we should go see my father first or visit my room first? Let's see Uncle first. However, Uncle is still in seclusion. It's a little inappropriate for us to rashly disturb him, right?" Xiaoling Yu said without hesitation. "You're quite polite. However, you just called him father-in-law and now you're calling him uncle. You're changing too quickly." Anya rolled her eyes at Xiaoling Yu and began to form seals. As her seals continuously entered the restriction on the stone door, the restriction on the stone door slowly dissipated. Even though she knew the seals, she still took a full 10 minutes to open the door of the secret room. What Xiaoling Yu didn't expect was that there was a huge cocoon of light suspended in midair in the secret room. In the cocoon of light, there was a middle-aged man who was sitting cross-legged with his upper body naked. The man was spirited and handsome. His long black hair draped over his shoulders, and his skin exuded a bronze luster. He had a broad forehead, a pair of long and thick eyebrows, and a straight nose. Even though he was in seclusion, he still gave off an extremely dignified feeling. No wonder this girl didn't look shy at all when she brought me in. It turns out that her father is still in seclusion. However, this situation is a little strange, Xiaoling Yu thought to himself. Just as this thought flashed through Xiaoling Yu's mind, his sharp eyes noticed that Anya's father's finger in the cocoon of light trembled slightly. Anya also noticed this and a look of joy appeared on her face. Could this be a sign that his seclusion is about to end? Xiaoling Yu was a little suspicious. My father should be able to complete his seclusion in less than 3 months. Anya said a little excitedly. Uncle's cultivation method seems a little strange. It doesn't seem like an ordinary cultivation method. Xiaoling Yu said after sensing the aura of the cocoon of light. My father is a genius. Why would he cultivate such a vulgar cultivation method? Anya said proudly. By right, he should have already ascended to the immoral realm. Xiaoling Yu was a little confused. Chapter 211. After waiting for 2 months, Anya's father, who was also the leader of the Shuntian League, finally ended his long seclusion. The moment he woke up, a ray of light shot up into the sky, and a mighty aura swept through the entire secret realm. All the cultivators of the Sky Alliance in the secret realm raised their heads to look at the pillar of light, and their hearts were filled with shock and suspicion. Even among the Shuntian League cultivators in the secret realm, only a few of the truly powerful and core members knew about the existence of the leader of the Shuntian League. However, only 2 or 3 of them had actually seen the leader, and Anya was one of them. The pillar of light lasted for an entire hour before it ended. The aura that was like a torrential wind and torrential current also disappeared along with it. Father has woken up, let's go and greet him. At this moment, Anya and Xiaoling Yu were in her simple room, which did not look like a girl's room at all. She felt that everything had calmed down, and she pulled Xiaoling Yu to the opposite door. In the past 2 months, Anya often brought Xiaoling Yu around the secret realm, and introduced him to the Shuntian League cultivators. However, most of the time, the 2 of them would return to this stone building. After spending so much time together, and with the fact that they were already husband and wife, they naturally became more and more harmonious, and even the small misunderstandings in the past were completely forgotten. Xiaoling Yu had also been in a relationship before, and his EQ did not decrease much due to the long period of cultivation. He knew very well how to get along with his girlfriend, and he also knew that they should be more tolerant of each other. Anya used to be cold and unapproachable, but ever since Xiaoling Yu conquered her body, she gradually became less autistic. At least in front of Xiaoling Yu, she was still considered gentle and pleasant. Xiaoling Yu had been working hard for many years, and had experienced countless twists and turns, and had long forgotten the peaceful days without cultivation. These 2 months made him feel very stable and peaceful, and he felt that God was really kind to him to have such a period of time before he ascended. When he arrived at the secret room on the other side, the cocoon of light had already disappeared, and a middle-aged cultivator wearing a blue robe had his back to the door. He was staring at a portrait on the wall that had appeared out of nowhere. As the middle-aged cultivator's body covered most of the portrait, Xiaoling Yu could not clearly see the appearance of the person in the portrait, and could only see the forehead and hair tied up in a bun. However, from the forehead and hair, he could tell that the person in the portrait was a woman. Father. Father. Perhaps it was because Anya had never called anyone father since she was born. At this moment, she seemed a little emotional and her voice was a little choked up. The middle-aged cultivator seemed to have suddenly come back to his senses, and he faintly sighed. He turned around and said with a smile, I've let you and your mother down all these years, and I've let you suffer. His originally imposing appearance had now become amiable. When the middle-aged cultivator said this, he gave Xiaoling Yu the feeling of an uncle next door, and he could not help but think of his father. Xiaoling Yu's father was usually very strict, but sometimes he was very doting on him. Father, I didn't suffer, but I've always missed my mother. Father, can you tell me when my mother will come back? Although the corners of Anya's eyes were overflowing with sparkling tears, her expression was very strong. Your mother, she won't be coming back, because she's already gone. The middle-aged cultivator's face was filled with sorrow. No, father, you're lying to me. Elder Wang and Elder Sun both said that my mother went out to do something, and will be back soon. Hearing her father's words, Anya couldn't help but tremble and take a step back. She said in disbelief, and the tears in her eyes flowed like a spring. They were afraid that you would be sad, so they lied to you. The reason why I had to go into seclusion for so many years was because I had to cultivate a cultivation method, and also because I was seriously injured. It was because I was seriously injured and on the verge of death that in order to save me, your mother didn't hesitate to use all of her strength to heal me and help me enter a state of cultivation. When the middle-aged cultivator said this, 2 streams of hot tears flowed down. After a slight pause, he continued, at that time, your mother was already pregnant with you. In order to save me, she used up too much of her strength, but her original cultivation wasn't very strong. After my injuries were stabilized, she was also like a lamp that had run out of oil. What was helpless was that at that time, only my consciousness existed, and my body couldn't move at all, so I couldn't stop her. Originally, she didn't have to die, but at that time, she was pregnant with you. If she wanted to save her life, she had to give you up. Because when she was pregnant with you, she had to pour the strength and life essence that she had painstakingly cultivated for many years into your body day and night. Unfortunately, she was soft-hearted and couldn't bear to part with you at all. At the last moment, she poured all of her remaining energy into your body, allowing you to be born early. After you were born, she passed away. No! You're lying to me. Anya really couldn't believe this result. She immediately covered her face and ran back to her secret room to cry bitterly. Although Anya had never seen her mother since she was born, and under normal circumstances, she shouldn't have too many feelings for her. However, for many years, Elder Sun and Elder Wang said that Anya's mother went out to do something in order to be able to cultivate in peace. Anya had always been looking forward to her mother's return. This expectation gradually became a habit, and Anya had always kept it in her heart. As time passed, this kind of invisibly deepened and became more and more intense, becoming difficult to untie and let go of. After so many years of waiting, this was the result. One could imagine how disappointed and sad Anya was at this time. Xiaoling Yu was embarrassed. He could understand Anya's feelings, but he couldn't just run over to comfort her. After all, his father-in-law was still curiously staring at him. Anya left in a hurry just now, so I haven't introduced myself. I'm Chui, Anya's father. The middle-aged cultivator cupped his fists and said very politely. Although Xiaoling Yu didn't introduce himself, an insightful cultivator like Chui could still guess a little. Xiaoling Yu greets uncle. Xiaoling Yu bowed and saluted. You're very interesting. You've obviously cultivated the primal chaos force that everyone can only dream of, but you've been demonized. As a result, your future is uncertain. When Chui heard how Xiaoling Yu addressed him, he was even more certain of his guess. Therefore, he didn't hide anything and directly spoke. this is something that can't be helped. Previously, I was implanted with a demon fetus by the black blood demon. After a few mishaps, I became like this. Uncle, do you have a way to solve this? Xiaoling Yu replied gloomily. If you're cultivating other techniques or energy, I can think of a way. However, your primal chaos force is too advanced, and your demonization is too deep. I'm afraid that even the experts of the God realm can't do anything about it. And Cui shook his head and said. Then I can only take one step at a time. My luck is pretty good. Xiaoling Yu smiled bitterly and said helplessly. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. Your primal chaos force being demonized may not be a bad thing. At least for now, it seems that your demonized primal chaos force is very powerful. I'm afraid that you won't be able to find a match in the cultivation world. And Cui smiled and comforted him. The cultivation world is just the beginning of cultivation. Xiaoling Yu didn't dare to be arrogant. As they spoke, Xiaoling Yu had been sensing the aura fluctuations on Enchui's body. He found that Enchui's aura leaked out when he was in seclusion. However, it was completely hidden now, so he couldn't detect it at all. It could be seen that Enchui's strength was at least a realm higher than his. A ninth tribulation expert was already at the peak of the cultivation world. Xiaoling Yu should be a level higher than a ninth tribulation expert, but he was about to ascend. This Enchui was at least a level higher than him. What level was Enchui at? When it comes to cultivation, we'll find out in the future. Let's not talk about this for now. What do you think of my daughter? Enchui asked with a very curious expression. Anya is diligent and conscientious in her cultivation. She's serious and meticulous in her work. She's naturally not an ordinary woman to be able to achieve sword heart illumination and sword cultivation. Xiaoling Yu was not stingy with his praise because he was speaking the truth. In this aspect, Ye is very similar to her mother. It's just that her mother had a hard life and met me. Otherwise, she wouldn't have. Uncle, you don't have to blame yourself too much. Auntie shouldn't regret her choice at all. Xiaoling Yu continued, not wanting Enchui to be too sad and guilty. The most taboo thing for cultivators was to be too attached to love. Because of this, it would form an inner demon over time. When we first got together, we wanted to be a loving couple. Unfortunately, I was a person who would get into trouble wherever I went. She had to suffer with me, and in the end, she even lost her life. Now I repent, but it's too late. If I knew this would happen, I wouldn't have fought for anything back then. I would have found a place to live in seclusion and never cared about the affairs of the world again. I wouldn't think about those messy things. Enchui sighed. Life is hard to predict. Who can continue to walk according to their own ideas? Sometimes, since you've started, you have to keep going. Xiaoling Yu said with deep feelings. I just hope that you can cherish her a little more in the future. Don't let her suffer too much like her mother. Enchui said bluntly. Xiaoling Yu knew that his father-in-law was warning him. Usually, a prospective son-in-law would inevitably hear such words when he visited. Therefore, he nodded and said, Uncle, don't worry. As long as I'm still breathing, I won't let Anya suffer. Chapter 212. Xiaoling Yu chatted with his father-in-law in Qian for nearly 4 hours. When he returned to the secret room on the opposite side, Anya was staring blankly at the window with the restriction on it opened. There were no tall buildings in the secret realm. Standing by the window of the secret room, one could see very far. The scenery outside was very beautiful, but Anya was not in the mood to appreciate it. Her eyes were dull, and she seemed to be thinking about something. Xiaoling Yu walked slowly to the window, stretched out his arms and pulled Anya into his arms. He said softly, Don't be sad. You have to live well. Only then can you be worthy of Auntie's sacrifice. When a person was sad, especially a woman, was comforted, she could not help but cry again. Anya was the same. She turned around and hugged Xiaoling Yu tightly. She leaned on Xiaoling Yu's shoulder and began to sob. Xiaoling Yu did not say anything. He held Anya's waist with one hand and gently stroked her back with the other. After a long time, Anya finally stopped crying. However, she still hugged Xiaolingyu tightly, as if she was afraid that she would lose one of her hands. After losing something, people tended to cherish what they had now more. In the past 2 months, although Xiaolingyu and Anya spent every day together, they did not have intimate contact. They treated each other with respect and only talked and laughed as they walked around. However, they had been hugging for a long time. Xiaolingyu's hand also touched Anya's back for a long time. Occasionally, his hand would fall on Anya's perky buttocks and feel the fullness of her breasts. Gradually, his heart began to stir. Xiaolingyu was not lustful, but a normal man's reaction. Although Xiaolingyu was a cultivator who had reached the top of the cultivation world, he was not a man with few desires. He liked to be single, but it did not mean that he liked to be alone and not have a woman he liked to be intimate with. If it wasn't for Anya's special situation, Xiaolingyu wouldn't have been able to hug her for so long. She was afraid that they would have already touched each other. After Anya calmed down, Xiaolingyu lifted her hand and brushed away Anya's hair. Then, she kissed Anya on the corner of her lips. After being kissed by Xiaolingyu, Anya's body immediately trembled and her eyes lit up. However, after glancing at Xiaolingyu, she immediately looked away as if she was guilty. He could tell from Anya's blushing face that she was a little shy and her body was gradually heating up. Seeing that Anya's reaction was not bad, Xiaolingyu took advantage of the situation and moved his mouth to Anya's red lips. At the same time, his hand went to Anya's perky butt and gently pinched it. Anya's teeth only lasted for less than 5 breaths before Xiaolingyu pried them open and their tongues tangled together. Right at this moment, the door to Anya's room that had no restrictions placed on it was pushed open. The two of them immediately separated when they heard the noise and looked towards the door at the same time. However, they were completely unaware that there was still crystalline saliva at the corners of their mouths. I think I came at the wrong time. Xiaolingyu and Anya were very embarrassed and wanted to find a hole to hide in. And Cui, who was standing at the door, was even more embarrassed. After all, his daughter was one of them. "Father, come in." After Anya wiped her mouth, she went to the door and grabbed Chui's arm. No, I just came to see if you're still crying. I've been in seclusion for too long and my bones are a little sore. I'll go out and see if there are any changes in the mystic realm." And Cui pulled his daughter's arm away and turned to leave. He walked very quickly and went downstairs in the blink of an eye. "It's all your fault. Father must have something to tell us." Anya glared at Xiaolingyu and said angrily. "How would I know that he would come in at this time?" Xiaolingyu muttered indignantly. "Humph. I'll go look for him." Anya rolled her eyes at Xiaolingyu and was about to go out and chase after her father. However, before she could leave, Xiaolingyu pulled her back. "He didn't say anything just now, so it's definitely not urgent. He just came out of seclusion. Let him go out alone." After Xiaolingyu explained, he said with a smile of exultation, "We've already started just now. Do you think we should continue with the rest?" "Continue, my foot." Anya scolded softly and tried to shake off Xiaolingyu's hand. However, not only did she not manage to do so, Xiaolingyu hugged her tightly. "Uncle left so quickly because he didn't want to ruin our good time. You can ignore my feelings, but you can't let Uncle down." Xiaolingyu kissed Anya's cheek and said in a seemingly reasonable manner. However, there was a naughty smile on her face. "Smooth talker." Anya scolded again but did not try to break free. In less than 100 breaths of time, Xiaolingyu, who had been holding back for many years, stripped himself and Anya naked. Then, his bronze body and Anya's fair body were entwined together. This time was different from the last time. Anya was forced to do it last time, but this time, both of them were fully immersed in it. Last time, it was to cultivate and save themselves, but this time, it was to satisfy their desires. Last time, Anya did not feel anything at all. However, this time, her reaction was getting more and more intense. She would occasionally take the initiative to cooperate and even moan a few times. After a while, they stopped. The redness on Anya's body gradually faded. However, she was still lying on Xiaoling Yu's body lazily and drawing circles on Xiaoling Yu's chest with her finger. At this moment, Xiaoling Yu closed his eyes and enjoyed Anya's gentleness. He really wanted to hug Anya and have a good night's sleep, so that he could relax his body and mind. The more he thought about it, the more sleepy Xiaoling Yu felt. Unexpectedly, he really fell asleep just like that. Anya wanted to wake Xiaoling Yu up. However, she remembered that Xiaoling Yu had done so many things over the years and must be very busy and lonely. Thus, she did not have the heart to wake him up. After Xiaoling Yu fell asleep, she quietly got up, tidied up her clothes and appearance, and left the room. After searching in the secret realm for a while, Anya finally found her father, Enchui. "You look more like your mother now," Enchui could not help but say when he saw Anya, who had just had sex. Anya was not stupid. Her cheeks, which had just recovered, instantly flushed red. "What are you going to do when you see that the people in the secret realm are so busy?" Enchui asked seriously. "We're going to do something that our Shuntian League's ancestors could not do," Anya said firmly. "Ha, you're talking about that? I've been in seclusion all this time." "I didn't expect you to not give up," Enchui said with a smile. "The ancestors of the Shuntian League have been working on this for a long time. They have accumulated a lot of energy. Now that we have a great opportunity, how can we not give it a try?" Anya said firmly. "Forget it. If we do something big, we'll have to sacrifice a lot," Enchui said as he shook his head. "Father, didn't you say that if we want to achieve something big, we have to sacrifice some people? But now, that was then and this is now. Back then, I was arrogant and thought that I could do it. Unfortunately, in the end, it was all for naught. Moreover, I even caused your mother's death. Now that I think about it, I feel that I was really stupid. The world of cultivation is so big. How can we control it completely? Even if all the cultivators bow down to us and are willing to accept the cultivation philosophy of following heaven's will, who can guarantee that they will think that way in their hearts? Who can guarantee that they will cultivate in secret? We can't keep an eye on them all the time, can we?" Enchui explained with a sigh. Then he said, "The cultivators of the Shuntian League are loyal, but what right do we have to make them risk their lives for us? Is it worth it if they lose their lives? To teach the cultivation philosophy of following heaven's will, we don't have to control the world of cultivation completely. We only need to spread it out like our predecessors. Whoever can accept it will be their fortune." Enchui's words made Anya fall into deep thought. After a while, Enchui said, "Maybe it's the law of nature that cultivators cultivate with all kinds of beliefs and methods. If we want them to follow heaven's will, isn't it also against the law of nature? It's probably because of this that so many generations of our predecessors failed to accomplish it. Then wouldn't the efforts of the cultivators of the Shuntian League in recent generations be in vain?" Anya didn't seem to have figured it out completely. We've been wrong in recent generations. We've hoarded spiritual stones and immortal stones and robbed many high-level magical treasures. We didn't use them to show kindness to the world, but to conquer the world with them. This is wrong in the first place. Therefore, we can't keep making mistakes. Since we've taken them from the world, let's use them for the world," Enchui said with a smile. "How do we use them for the world?" Anya asked again. Enchui frowned and thought for a while. Then he said, "Set up a school and accept students from all races. Teach them cultivation for free and cultivate cultivators with good foundations. Give them spiritual stones and immortal stones, teach them cultivation methods of various levels, give them spiritual treasures and immortal treasures." Anya's eyes lit up. She said, "That's a good idea. In this way, we can spread following heaven's will in the school. After they finish their studies, they can go out and spread their influence. After a long time, following heaven's will become more and more influential. Well, I'll leave it to you to find old Sun and old Wang. I'll go talk to my good son-in-law." With that, Enchui's body blurred. he actually teleported in this secret realm full of restrictions and formations. Anya was relieved to hear her father call Xiaoling Yu his son-in-law. She was really worried that her father wouldn't be satisfied with Xiaoling Yu. After Enchui arrived at Anya's room, he saw Xiaoling Yu sleeping soundly without the slightest vigilance. He frowned and shook his head, but he didn't wake Xiaoling Yu up. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.